Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we got a big one for you today. We are in Calling All Jews, and this one is called The Truth About Zionism. So this is a long time coming. I've been on this for the last 2 months. Could have released it a few weeks ago easy, but you'll see the context it gets very, very difficult. There is a lot of information over here. I split up the video. There's going to be 8 sections over here. So you don't have to sit down for however long this is going to be. Watch it in sections and we'll discuss it afterwards. So I have no doubt that this teaching is going to upset most people because anyone listening to this might identify with a certain group or within a certain category. But the point of this series is that, and this teaching in particular, is to create order out of chaos. The right kind of order out of the created chaos. And believe me, or don't, but just look around, the powers that be are using all their resources in order to create chaos, to sow division, which is the opposite of God's world, as we just read its creation in Genesis recently. And so, bo'u na'aseh seder badvarim. Let us make order of things. Whether you agree with me or not, whether you like me or not, it doesn't matter, okay? This class is for anyone in the world to educate yourself and know the facts. So before you get offended, please listen to the entire class. Take that information, make calculated and educated decisions for yourself so at least you know where you stand. Because all the things that I'm going to share with you here, I can tell you for certain, most Jews have no idea what I'm about to say, let alone the people who actually hate us. Everything that moves in this world is embedded with subliminal programming. Everything goes beneath the surface. Now, this is not a conspiracy theory, okay? This is marketing. Go to college, marketing 101. What are the hidden messages within what you're trying to sell, how you're trying to sell, and who you're trying to sell it to? This is very basic. So guess what? That's this world, right? They teach this even in high school levels. It's how you get people to do things they otherwise would not be doing on their own. Which brings us to our first part. Well, like every fabrication of the truth, there is always the point of origin, the first, from which everything is built upon and then controlled to fit a certain agenda. A classic example, our Torah, the Tanakh, the 5 books of Moses, the prophets, and the writings are all referred to as old because it's obsolete. I mean, by who, right? They're referred to as old because it's obsolete, but there's a new one to come along and undo the word of God. So the first time we see this word Zion, okay, that's just an example of how there's the original and let's put this on top and now this is what this is. But no, it's not, okay? It's just the name alone. So where do we find this concept of Zion to begin with? In the Tanakh, it's in 2 Samuel 2:7. And David conquered the stronghold of Zion, which is the city of David. Is the stronghold of Zion the city of David? 1 Kings 8:1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the princes and of the fathers houses of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. Okay, so there we go. Later in the Tanakh, we see Zion referred to as a mount or as a place that could be perceived as more of an essence, like in Isaiah 2:2-3. And it shall be at the end of the days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be firmly established at the top of the mountains, and it shall be raised above the hills, and all the nations shall stream to it. And many peoples shall go, and they shall say, Come, let us go up to the Lord's mount, to the house of the God of Jacob. Remember that. and let him teach us of his ways, and we will go in his paths. For out of Zion shall the Torah come forth, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. Okay, so first we see that Zion is actually the city of David. Then we see that it's Mount Moriah, where God's house is sitting. And if you've ever been to Jerusalem, you'll see that in all actuality, they are connected. City of David, as you move up the mountain, there's a highway there now, but back in the day, that was one city. That was actually really the ancient city of Jerusalem. So, is Zion Temple Mount God's mount, or is it the city of David? The answer is both, everything, inseparable. Psalms 2:2. Kings of the land stand up and nobles take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. The house of God is the temple, and the house of his anointed is in the city of David, right? Who is his anointed? Psalms 18:51. He gives great salvation to his king, and he performs kindness to his anointed, to David, and to his seed forever. It's very simple over there, okay? Mashiach means anointed, meaning chosen for a specific task. Like Aaron and his sons, they are also nimshachu, meshichim, right? Numbers 3:3. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the anointed Kohanim, whom he consecrated to serve as Kohanim. Ele shemot bnei Aaron haKohanim hameshuchim, Mashiach, anointed, asher milay adam lechayen. And like Cyrus the Mede, from Isaiah 45:1, so says the Lord to his anointed one, to Cyrus. You get it, right? Okay. Ko amar Hashem limshicho lekoresh. So how do we know that David is God's chosen anointed to be King Mashiach? From the verse we read in Psalms 18:51. He gives great salvation to his king. God chooses who it is. He already chose it was David. And he performs kindness to his anointed, to David and his seed forever. That's the line. Now, when is the only time we actually see the return to Zion? In Psalms 126:1, a song of ascents, when the Lord returns the returnees to Zion, we shall be like dreamers. Shir HaMa'alot beshuv Adonai et shivat Tzion, lashuv, to return. It's also from the word tshuva. Tshuva is an answer, but it also means to return. To where? Point of origin, everything, right? Et shivat Tzion hayinu kecholmim. This all comes together with the blessing that we say 3 times a day in the Amidah prayer. Blessed are you, the Lord, O God, who returns his Shechina to Zion. Hamachzir Shechinato leTzion. Meaning, the true return to Zion is conditional upon 3 things. 1, the Shechina, God's presence, also known as Malchut Shamayim, the kingdom of heaven. 2, the establishment of the house of David, Mashiach, also known as Malchut Beit David. And 3, the building of the temple, Binyan Beit HaMikdash. These 3 things are what we need to be praying for every single day within everything that we do. Why are we doing this? We are doing this for Malchut Shamayim, Malchut Beit David, Binyan Beit HaMikdash. Once this happens, we are officially out of exile. So long as these 3 things have not been established, we are absolutely positively, biblically and rabbinically, still in exile. Are we still in exile today? Yes, we are. Are we physically on the land of Israel? Yes, we are. But because we don't have those 3 things, we're still in exile. Officially, biblically, rabbinically. There's no contest here. Which means that since the exile of King Yehoiachin, of the house of David, and then the expulsion of the Jews from the land, and the destruction of the first temple, we have been in exile, making it around 2,623 years thus far, give or take. In Masechet Yoma, it says, so in other words, even when we came back during the second temple did not possess what the first temple did, nor did we have a king from the house of David. Therefore, we still were in exile. Once the King Yehoiachin exile, the beginning, really the true beginning of the Babylonian exile, we have been in exile ever since. It's not 2,000 years. It's over 2,600 years. In Masechet Yoma it says, in every generation that the temple is not built, it is as if it was destroyed in their day. We're not worthy of it, right? We're supposed to build a temple, but God chooses the king. Temple on us, God chooses the king. The final temple, we will build it. God then will bring the spiritual temple on the physical temple, okay? Combining, uniting the worlds, if you will. So God is the one that chooses the king, as he told us in Deuteronomy 17, 14 to 15. When you come to the land of the Lord, and we are not all here, your God is giving you, and you possess it. We have yet to possess it, and live therein. Okay, whoever's here now, for whatever areas we got. And you say, I will set a king over myself like all the nations around me. You shall set a king over you, one whom the Lord your God chooses. God does we want a king? Okay, God is going to choose who it is. From among your brothers, you shall set a king over yourself. You shall not appoint a foreigner over yourself, one who is not your brother. That's it. Now, this is in Deuteronomy, right? Later on, it has been established that it will only be from the line of Judah, from the house of David, exclusively. End of story. That's it. Those are the kings. Those are the kings of the United Tribes of Israel. Meaning, from the father's side, who establishes the tribe? The son of the son of the son of the son. That's how the tribes are established, right? So we have established the meaning and inclusion of Zion. We're talking about the points of origin and what is incumbent upon its completion, the return to Zion. Kingdom of heaven, kingdom of the house of David, building the temple. These three things. So first things first, the Jews have to be in their land for any of this to be irrelevant, right? You need 12 tribes matching the 12 upper tribes, the tribes of Yah, as said in Psalms Shir Ma'alot. Upper, lower. And so I present to you the first, still incomplete and still most successful thus far, return to Zion. First time. Ezra chapter 1. And in the first year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, at the completion of the word of the Lord, from the mouth of Jeremiah, the Lord aroused the spirit of Cyrus, the king of Persia, and he issued a proclamation throughout his kingdom and also in writing, saying, So said Cyrus, the king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth, the Lord God of the heavens delivered to me, and he commanded me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Okay, great. Who is among you of all his people? May his God be with him, and he may ascend to Jerusalem, which is in Judea, and let him build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem. And whoever remains from all the places where he sojourns, the people of his place, shall help him with silver and with gold and with possessions and with cattle, with the donations to the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. He's really making a point of saying where all these things are. And the heads of the families of Judah and Benjamin. Why Judah and Benjamin? Because those are the two main tribes that have been exiled. This is why we are called Jews today. We don't know which tribe exactly we are from. Most likely we are either from Judah or from Benjamin. And we have a few other refugees from the other 10 tribes, but the majority of them, as we know, they have been exiled. And from the heads of the families of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites arose, with all whom God inspired to ascend to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. And all those around them strengthened their hands with vessels of silver, with gold, with possessions, with cattle, and with precious things, besides all that was donated. And King Cyrus took out all the vessels of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of Jerusalem, and had placed them in the temple of his God, right? So now he's undoing all of that. This is a very big deal. So one day, what happened here? The ruler of the world wakes up and decides to do this. This did not sit well with the Jews in Babylon, because they were looking for all the grand miracles that God had displayed during the Exodus from Egypt. Well, you took us first time, we got the first Yetziah, the first redemption, the first coming out of and going into, all the bells and whistles. But now what? The The foreign king is saying, hey, go back to your land and here's money, here's gold and silver, and take all your vessels and go back. Where is the ground shaking? Where is the sky opening up? Where are all the miracles? Where's all this stuff, right? And now a Gentile king is going to allow us to return to our homeland with all that was robbed from us? No, they said. I think we're good here. No joke. What is this the equivalent to? To today's, listen right now, these are all true statements. To today's Orthodox Jews, I say Orthodox Jews because Orthodox Jews should know better. They read the Torah. Living in the States and other places, who I have had conversations with plenty of times, personally. And I kid you not, I have had answers such as, well, when Mashiach calls me, then I'll come. In other words, you want to wait for a miracle, for God to whisk you home on the wings of eagles. Otherwise, you will remain in Babylon until such a time. Those wings of eagles are called Elal, by the way, or United, whatever. Overpriced, yes. Minimal legroom, sure. Subpar service, no question, right? You're dealing with Israelis after all. Nevertheless, it is a miracle. You get to sit in a cushioned seat in a metal tube flying 30,000 feet in the air across the ocean. That is a miracle to anyone if you told them this 3,000 years ago. My question is, if you could have come but you chose not to, what makes you think you're gonna get any call? What happened as a result, going back to the original Return to Zion, was that only between 2 and 4% of the Jews in Babylon made the return. Between 2 and 4%. I've taught this before in the teachings here over the past few years. It is sad, but true. Among them were Daniel of Judah, right? And Mordechai from the book of Esther, from Benjamin, and other prophets who were the main returning force. The Gdolei Ador actually did return. Only between 2 and 4%, with everything that was plundered. That was a problem. In fact, King Solomon prophesied about this very instance in Song of Songs 8:9. If she be a wall, we will build upon her a silver turret. And if she be a door, we will enclose her with cedar boards. If Israel would have returned together, all of them as a solid wall, a silver turret, chesed, would be placed over them. But if they were to return as a door, swinging this way and that, I'll come, I won't come, whatever, then they will get wooden boards. And wood eventually rots. And that is exactly what happened with the Second Temple. This is all our sages discussing this based on the prophecies of Solomon. Unfortunately, the Second Temple was doomed before it was even constructed because not all Israel came back. And as we know, they also took foreign wives. So the Second Temple was very, very temporary. So yes, there was a Second Temple, but it did not have 5 key elements as it did in the First Temple. Now, again, I'm going to go through a lot of things that I went through, but only touch upon them because otherwise, if you're just watching this for the first time, you will be lost. But if you've been watching this entire series and even not my other teachings, but primarily this entire series, you'll have a better idea. So I strongly recommend you do that, okay? Because this is just one long part of it. What are the 5 key things that the Second Temple did not have that the First Temple did? 1, no fire, eternal flame, as well as a pillar of smoke that was always going straight up. Rain, wind, didn't matter, it was always there. This did not happen in the Second Temple. There was no Ark of the Covenant. The Holy of Holies was an empty room. Empty, nothing there. 3, no Urim v'Tumim that the high priest wore inside the vest. 4, no anointing oil. 5, no Ruach HaKodesh, meaning there was no Shekhinah over there. So it was a nice building, but other than that. And even after Herod the Great razed it to the ground and rebuilt the most significant or magnificent building in the ancient world, as said by Titus, the man who would later burn it down, it still could not hold a candle to the First Temple of Solomon. Not necessarily in its grandeur and size, but because of the holy light emanating from it and throughout Jerusalem. That did not happen during the Second Temple. So just like the Jews who did not return to their homeland because the means that God chose did not suit them. No, I want a miracle. I'm on the way for Mashiach to give me a call. So too the Jews of today are not returning to their land because it doesn't suit them. Otherwise, they would be here. There is no excuse at the end of the day why now, in this world, what is happening that Jews are not coming here. But very soon, this year, they will. As a result, the Second Temple was destroyed back then, and the final temple is being delayed today. That is correct. Of that time and this time, Solomon said in Song of Songs 5:1, I have come to my garden, my sister, my bride. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my sugar cane with my sugar. I have drunk my wine with my milk. Eat, friends, drink, yea, drink abundantly, beloved ones. Where are my beloveds? We sleep, comatose, one might say, but my heart is awake. That's your Jewish soul yearning to come home where it belongs. Hark, my beloved is knocking. Open for me, my sister, my beloved, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is full of dew, my locks with the drops of the night. The long night of the exile. And you think you were waiting for God over 2,600 years? What do you think God's doing? If you can return to Israel, why are you not returning? I've taken off my tunic. How can I now put it on? I have bathed my feet. How can I soil them? Translation. I've already settled here in Brooklyn, in Muncie, in Cleveland, in Philadelphia, in LA, in Chicago, in Miami, in Boca, whatever. We got everything here. We got Jewish schools. We got kosher supermarket sections, a kosher wine section. I got my butcher. Everything is great over there. We got the JCC. We got our Young Israels. We have the OU, Oy vey, rather. We give money to Tzahal. I love Tzahal. We come to Israel once a year or so, for spring break. We drop a letter in the kotel, and then we come back to our real home, waiting for Mashiach's call to bring us back to Israel in a miraculous way. You understand how ridiculous that sounds? This is truth. My beloved stretched forth his hand from the hole, and my insides stirred because of him. I arose, finally, to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with flowing myrrh upon the handles of the lock. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had hidden and was gone. My soul went out. When he spoke, I sought him, but found him not. I called him, but he did not answer. Oh, you don't want to miss the boat, kids. The watchmen who patrol the city found me. They smote me and wounded me. The watchmen of the walls took my jewelry off of me. Those who you called your protectors, because the watchmen, yes, the other countries in which you chose to reside. Now, needless to say, we messed that one up. And why? Because we were divided. The final redemption depends on Israel's unity, oneness. So, what happened as a result? There was a massive delay in the completion of the building of the Second Temple back then. When Mordechai saw through Ruach HaKodesh that trouble is afoot in the city of Shushan, right? And so he had no choice but to return. At the end of the day, if you see, if the land is going to get taken out, or if the people are going to get taken out, what is more important, the land or the people? It is the people. Read the 40 years in the wilderness. It is all about Israel, okay? The land obviously will not be taken out, but only prepped, on the ready, waiting for Israel to come and unlock it. Only Israel can unlock the land, and over 2,000 years since our last expulsion, that kind of proves it. Look what happened here in the last 75 years when Jews returned to the land. Miracles. Where did this come from? I don't know. We read the Torah. And so, like we said, he had no choice but to return. And that's where you have your Purim story. And what was the straw that broke the camel's back for the Purim story to take place? Meaning for God to send Haman to annihilate, to kill, and to destroy every Jew. Why did it have to get that far? Again, God does all this. Why did it have to get that far? The Jews were invited to Ahasuerus's 180-day banquet, and they accepted. Keep this in mind, because we will get back to it. But after the events of Purim, that lasted 9 years, by the way. It wasn't just a year, it was 9 years. A bit more of the Jews returned home, but nowhere near all. It was even more comfortable now in Babylon, where another king reigns, and now he is sympathetic towards Israel. Know what I mean? When the Jews returned to Israel, logic would dictate that they first secure their position, thereby building the walls of Jerusalem, then God's temple. But we're Jews. We follow the word of God, and your average everyday logic is really irrelevant. So they first were building the temple, each man back to back, with sword in one hand and a shovel in the other. Now, mind you, one cannot be a Jew living outside the land of Israel, establishing roots outside the land of Israel, benefiting from whatever comforts you may have left in the short time you have left outside the land of Israel, and still consider yourself to be a Zionist. Okay? Again, we're breaking it down, but yeah, I'm a Zionist. I believe, what is Zionism? Okay. You see, eventually the second temple was built, but Israel still did not have a king from the line of David, meaning the exile never really ended. This whole story, in a nutshell, is what modern day Zionism, also known as secular Zionism, is taking claim for. That is the return to Zion. That is where Zionism, the term, that's where it comes from. The true Zionism is the return of the Jews to their ancestral homeland, which includes, it's not just Jews coming here and Jews living like the rest of the nations. No, that is not what the true return to Zion is. One, the Shekhinah, God's presence, like we said, Malchut Shamayim, kingdom of heaven. Two, the establishment of the house of David, King Mashiach, Malchut Beit David, and the building of the temple, Binyan Beit HaMikdash. And this happens. Obviously, there is no more secularism in this country. People are not doing what they want. People are living according to, again, everybody that's going to remain here is going to do exactly what they want, which is exactly living according to how God says we should live. Is very simple. And like we said, we need these three things to take place for this to happen. And we don't even have one of them complete at the current time, so long as we have millions of our brethren willingly sitting outside. So when you ask an Orthodox Jew today who lives outside of Israel, if they are a Zionist, they will most likely say, sure, of course I am. I am a Jew. Then why aren't you in Israel? Get it? Okay. Having in mind that they believe that Jews should be in their land, whether they themselves are there or not. But what they don't know is that we need the temple to be built and have a king from the line of David and for the Shekhinah to return. Like we said, name recognition, using the term Zionism to make us think of the original return to Zion, Shivat Zion. By the way, I gave 3 classes on this particular topic from the End from the Beginning series, and the teachings are called The Return to Zion and the Second Temple, parts 1, 2, and 3. I highly recommend that for much more information. Okay, now we all need to take a breath. Up until now, this part of the class, this was easy. What comes next, again, it's going to become more and more and more difficult, crescendoing at the end, obviously. So what comes next? Well, just make sure that you are calm, in a space to listen. I was not looking forward to this, but here goes nothing. What is modern day Zionism? Now, I'm not talking about what the God-fearing Jews believe it to be, but what it actually is. Again, if you ask your average Jew, what is Zionism? It's the Jews having come living in Zion, in the land of Israel. True, they don't understand what, when they say Zionist, what it actually is referred to and where that term comes from. So it was a product of the Enlightenment movement, by which man places himself in the center of the universe, primarily in the separation between church and state, let's say. In other words, keep God out of our affairs. Now, you can't really blame them, as Europe had been under the boot heel of the Roman Catholic Church for way too long, until Napoleon came along, and instead of bending the knee to the Pope, he essentially presented him with the finger. Later on, the slogan became, as it is today, democracy. This comes from the Greek words demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning power, democracy, democrat. Power to the people is what they wanted the focus to be, but really it was relinquishing power from God, meaning the church, in that aspect. And where were the Jews in all of this? Most had nothing to do with the church and could not be happier to remove its clutches from society, but there were others who had different ideas. This is how the Reform movement of Judaism was born in the mid-19th century in Germany. The long and short of it is, and again, we'll delve into it a little bit later, well, a lot later, but in this class, the long and the short of it is, we are Jews, but we are Germans first. We have certain traditions, but we choose to assimilate completely into society so that there will hardly be any noticeable distinction between us, the Jews, the German Jews, and the Gentiles we live amongst. Were Jews more widely accepted among the general population? After this, maybe a bit, but of course, it didn't last. Because we were nomads, we had no home, no national flag, no capital, and so on. Current. So, for the sake of the nations accepting us, we needed a place to call our own. Enter Theodor Herzl, the most famous inclining bearded Jew. As we all know, he didn't really care where the Jews had a state. Everything I'm saying right now, this is public knowledge. You can Google this and it's right there. I'm just putting it here for you. He couldn't care less where the Jewish state was. He was pushing for a plot in Uganda. Yeah, because we'll call that Israel. Who cares? Whatever. We could already see it's a national sense, not a spiritual or religious tie. So how did it happen that the Jews actually were allowed, yes, allowed, to have the land of Israel as a sovereign state? He got endorsed by the Pope. You see, though the countries no longer answered to the church still had a say and sway throughout major political decisions. It still does. You don't know about it. You're like, that's ridiculous. Wait, it's all coming out. Here in Israel, you will see pictures of Herzl throughout every government building, in every single government office. His bust is everywhere. You know the picture, right? We even named the city after him, Herzliya, Herzl, yeah? And he is known as Jose HaMedina, the visionary of the state. What most Jews don't know is who this man really was. Again, the hero. Yeah. Fortunately for us, we have his diary. Go ahead. Google right now, Herzl's diary. You will get it all. It is right there. That is where I'm getting this from. So we get a better idea. Ready? I'm going to read some passages from Herzl's diary, the visionary of the state, the guy that is in every single office. Some people even called him Mashiach ben Yosef. No. Anti-Semitism has grown, he says, and continues to grow, and so do I. I can still recall two different conceptions of the question and its solution which I had in the course of those years. About 2 years ago, I wanted to solve the Jewish question, at least in Austria, with the help of the Catholic Church, because they've helped us so much. I wished to gain access to the Pope, not without first assuring myself of the support of the Austrian Church dignitaries, and say to him, this is what he wanted to tell the Pope, help us against the anti-Semites, and I will start a great movement for the free and honorable conversion of Jews to Christianity. That's right. Free and honorable by virtue of the fact that the leaders of this movement, myself in particular, would remain Jews and as such would propagate conversion to the faith of the majority. You always need the people inside to be like, come, I'm one of you, listen to me, go there. This is essentially like, the Messianics. The conversion would be taking place in broad daylight, Sundays, because that's a great day, at noon in St. Stephen's Cathedral with festive processions and amidst the pealing of bells. Not in shame, as individuals have converted up to now, but with proud gestures. You see, even the secular, you could call them secular, the modern Germans, they're still, yeah, I'm a Christian or whatever, it's no problem. I'll do the churchy thing, but it's not like anybody exactly lives that way. And because the Jewish leaders would remain Jews, escorting the people only to the threshold of the church and themselves staying outside, the whole performance was to be elevated by a touch of great candor. We, the steadfast men, would have constituted the last generation. He was ready to be the last generation of Jews. We would still have adhered to the faith of our fathers, but we would have made Christians of our young sons before they reach the age of independent decision, after which conversion looks like an act of cowardice or careerism. You understand what I'm reading to you right now. The visionary of the state of Israel, his plan, what he wanted was to convert all the Jews to Christianity publicly. As is my custom, I had thought out the entire plan down to all its minute details. I could see myself dealing with the Archbishop of Vienna. In imagination, I stood before the Pope. Both of them were very sorry that I wished to do no more than remain part of the last generation of Jews, and sent this slogan of mingling of the races flying across the world. You see, in Judaism, there's a thing called kavanah, right? Intent. Focus. It is the intent behind the action that gives power to the action itself. So, for instance, right, this is birkat shehakol. I could say, okay, I'm thirsty, blah, 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 and I drink. There's no kavana in there. I did a disservice to God. I blessed God through, by the way, I'm thirsty now. This gives no blessing to my body. But if I focus on what it is, it's just water with some drops of lemon because I got a lot of reading to do. If I say, God, if I focus, I need this to sustain me, to revitalize me, to go through my bloodstream and give me the ingredients I need to hydrate me so I can continue to do your work. Please let it be so. And then I bless. Then all of a sudden, I just elevated this water or anything else, let's say, that I would eat. And now it's actually helping me. That's called kavanah, what you focus on. Sometimes you'll do a favor for somebody, but what's really behind is that I'm actually doing this for you because it helps me. That's the focus. That is not a positive thing. You get the idea, okay? So this is called kavanah. The intent behind the action is what gives power to the action itself. Like we said, if you say a blessing and it's not really there, it does exactly the opposite effect. I'll give you a more relevant example. It is halacha that Jews may not accept money from Christians, not for goods and services, but for donations. Let's say you got a shop, you're selling something I would like to buy. Sure, no problem. Okay? So why are we not allowed to accept money from Christians? This is halacha. Well, as you know, we believe that Christianity is idolatry and Christians are idolaters. Again, I'm going to get to Christians and Christianity later on. It's not a bad thing what I'm saying. Just listen to the whole thing, please. Okay? So when they support Israel, it's not for the sake of Israel, but for the underlying goal. What is the kavanah underneath? In hopes that Jews will believe in Jesus. Speak to Christians. Yeah, of course I hope you believe in Jesus. Okay. Even out of the innocence of their hearts, with the best of intentions, I'm not even joking, okay? And though they may genuinely care about the Jews, But at the end of the day, what drives them is their faith in a man who we consider to be false. You see what I'm saying? You can call this dirty money. So it is halachically, you're not allowed to do it. So then what do you say about all the Christians that are supporting all these other rabbis that are accepting money today? They make an excuse. What is the excuse that they make? Oh, well, you don't know exactly who has the intent of what, so that's why we don't want to assume. And yet, there's also another thing in Judaism saying chamata safek, doubt. If there is doubt, even with a little piece, then the whole thing is pasul. God forbid that you should. And so what? You want to tell me that even 99%, if they are, for Jews, not anything to do with Jesus or anything like that, and the one is, this is because I really hope in my heart that the Jews will convert to Christianity and that Jesus will do his thing. That's not permissible. But watch how they also change the halacha or the, whatever they're comfortable in order to accept money. That is not cool. This is not a joke. Let's continue. But if you ask a Christian today, whoever they may be, that they believe that if you die, you do not and don't recognize the divinity of Jesus, you, a good Torah observant Jew, God-fearing Jew, is going to hell. Ask them. I have plenty of them from all the different, not every last different, the 42,000 sects, but from all the different levels. That's what they believe. It really is that simple. And if you guys know anything about me, I speak from personal experience when I was there. So this man, Herzl, this great modern day Zionist hero, the visionary of the state of Israel, his intent was to make every last Jew lose their faith and enter idolatry. And therefore, no matter what comes of it, even if it didn't happen the way he had planned, the core of this current state, what it was founded on, how it was established, and Zionism as we know it today is corrupt and rotten. You understand? Okay. Herzl also many a time expressed his admiration for Jesus. So let's read a bit about that. It had made an especially fine impression that I had expressed myself so favorably about Jesus Christ. That was at the beer hall in Venice when I had explained to him my artistic and philosophic attitude towards the touching figure of Jesus, whom, after all, I consider a Jew. But wait, kids, it gets even better. I was just lighting the Christmas tree, says Herzl, for my children when Gudeman arrived. He seemed upset by the Christian, quote-unquote, Christian custom. Well, I will not let myself be persuaded, but I don't mind if they call it the Hanukkah tree or the winter solstice. He said, I do not quite see how we can take any initiative in this matter. As long as the Jews deny the divinity of Christ, we certainly cannot make a declaration in their favor. Not that we have any ill will towards them. That's clearly a bold-faced lie. On the contrary, the church has always protected them. That is factually untrue. To us, they are the inseparable witness to the phenomenon of God's term on earth. But, of course you knew a but was coming, but they deny the divine nature of Christ, because it's idolatry. How then can we, the Christian world, without abandoning our own highest principles, agree to their being given possession of the Holy Land again? A Jew who acknowledges the divinity of Christ, says Saint Pierre, says St. Paul, but that is St. Peter and it is St. Paul. The history of Israel is our heritage. It is our foundation. But in order for us to come out of the for the Jewish people in the way that you desire, he is speaking to Herzl, they would first have to be converted. In other words, you want Christians' help? Make Jesus God. We cannot prevent the Jews from going to Jerusalem, but we could never sanction it. The soil of Jerusalem, if it was not always sacred, has been sanctified by the life of Jesus Christ. And yet it was the Byzantine Christians who turned the Temple Mount into a garbage heap on purpose. As the head of the church, I cannot tell you anything different. The Jews have not recognized our Lord, therefore we cannot recognize the Jewish people. Mwah, beautiful. This is from heaven that this is coming. And thank God for that. He continues, the Jewish religion was the foundation of our own. True statement, kind of. But it was superseded by the teachings of Christ. Not relevant anymore. The new stuff is better. And we cannot concede it any further validity. The Jews, who ought to have been the first to acknowledge Jesus Christ, have not done so to this day. Again, Baruch Hashem. Behold, the visionary of the modern Zionist state of Israel. In his own words, from his own diary, like I said, oh, you don't believe me? Google Herzl's diary. It is there for the public. All the pages, download the PDF, have at it. And just a little something extra I'd like to add. I have another small piece from a documentarian, a friend of Herzl's son, who sought permission from Albert Einstein to publish Albert Einstein's commentary on the matter. Okay? Albert Einstein on Herzl's tragic legacy. Herzl, who gave birth to a nation, he says, also had 3 children of his own. Their lives, however, were far from fulfilled, or happy, or glorious. One daughter was a homeless drug addict. Another struggled with depression, and his son, the subject of this letter, was a convert to Christianity. Worse was to come. In 1930, the daughter, addicted to morphine, died of an overdose. Her brother, distraught at her death, killed himself a day later. Only their sister remained until 1943, when she was transported to the Theresienstadt concentration camp, there to be killed by the Nazis. Because they don't care. They will remind you who you are. Here Einstein writes to the son of Herzl, his friend and biographer, Marcel Sternberger. Okay, so he's writing this letter to him. Your recent series of articles about Hans Herzl have moved me greatly. His wasted life constitutes a warning to all Jews against defecting from their people. Yet in Israel, this guy is hailed as he's the guy, right? For this reason, I consider your book a praiseworthy effort in the interest of the Jewish community. You have my permission to make use of the above comment in any way in which it can gain attention for your book. But there's another layer to this, because Herzl, like most, just a pawn, a tool, a means to an end, as the entire establishment of the modern-day Zionist state of Israel, under the banner of Return to Zion, was one big farce, a lie. What about David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, and Yitzhak Rabin, his right-hand man? Have you ever heard of the ship, the Altalena? When the Jews were, again, there's so much on this. When the Jews were in Israel, fighting against the Arabs and the British, the mainstream faction of the Haganah, which would later become, as what we know today, Tzva Haganah Yisrael, Tzahal, the IDF, made a deal with the enemy, the British. This deal was the same one like you would see in Braveheart, right? When the Scottish nobles made deals with the English, for the sake of lands and titles and what have you, they didn't come to their countrymen's aid in battle. In fact, in some cases, they would attack their own countrymen. So in this case, the Haganah's countrymen were the Etzel and the Lehi, run by Menachem Begin. They were the other parties. The only prime minister in Israel, by the way, who has any kind of respect for me. I thought that guy was a givil. Menachem Begin. That's it. When a ship came to Israel's shores, loaded with guns and Holocaust survivors from Czechoslovakia to help fight alongside Jews who were here, the Etzel, Begin, and his men were hiding, waiting to receive them, right? But Ben-Gurion and his lapdog Rabin had very different ideas. Rabin, being the head of his guard, was told to set up firing squads of machine guns and light artillery with the purpose of sinking the ship along with its cargo and passengers. Their orders, no survivors. And so it was, and has been documented. as Rabin was laughingly boasting about sniping the Jews who jumped off the ship into the water as the ship was going down. What I'm saying, again, this is not a conspiracy, no nothing. Go to the Menachem Begin Museum here in Jerusalem. They'll tell you the story. I went there with my wife. We're sitting there and a bunch of other people and everything. And when they got to the Altalena, everybody knew the story. And I'm like, so these guys are Holocaust survivors. They're just leaving there. How could Jews shoot Jews? You know what the guide said? Well, I mean, they were just following orders. All I heard was, we were just following orders. You're going to kill Jews because you made deals with the British? Are you crazy? What's the difference here? Anyway, that's Yitzhak Rabin. That's Menachem Begin. In the meantime, the Etzel was ready to kill Rabin and his firing squad when they were stopped by Menachem Begin. Ugh, what a giver. He said, what are you, crazy? They're killing Jews, and now if we start killing them, we also kill Jews. So essentially, we would be helping the Nazis, now wouldn't we? They walked away, heartbroken. So if you think that's the worst thing that Ben-Gurion was responsible for, you are sadly mistaken. Why am I sharing all this with you? You need to understand what values and morals this modern-day Zionist state was founded upon. He's also responsible for allowing over 1 million Jews to die. If you're not familiar with the name Joel Brand, please look him up. The long and short of that story is, at the end of World War II, while the Nazis resorted to not just burning Jews alive to save time, it was Eichmann, of all people, who reached out to the Zionists, because they're the Zionists, and proposed a deal. Give us 10,000 supply trucks, and we will give you 1 million Hungarian Jews. 1 million. We got 1 million of your people. Give us 10,000 supply trucks. Now again, the war was all but over. These trucks would not have prolonged anything. And this is after the cat was out of the bag that what the Nazis have been doing. Since the Zionists, led by Ben-Gurion, have already been killing their own and swore allegiance to their British overlords, there was no accord, since the British did not wish to deal with another 1 million Jews in, back then, Palestine. And so, they were all killed when they could have very well been saved. Please read his works called Trucks of Blood, so you can be horrified as to what the so-called heroes and founders of our state had done. You see, the secular Zionists really didn't want any Orthodox Jews, none. They wanted Jewish nationalists from the white European countries. That's right, they did not favor Jews who came from Middle Eastern or Northern African countries at all. We still have people in this country today who remembered when they came here, the government officials made them cut their peot and shave off their beards, throwing them into kibbutzim, communes, encouraging them to assimilate into the new way the new Jew should live. And those are the lucky ones. We'll get to what the unlucky ones did. Mind you, though Israel was not officially founded as a communist state, but rather a democratic society, come on, really? All its founders were communists, and so the influence was undeniable. When my grandfather came here from Hungary, he's one of the survivors, when he came here from Hungary after the war, he couldn't get a job or a house unless what? He signed over his reparations that he got from Germany to the new Zionist state of Israel and signed a contract of loyalty to the state. He then received a red passport by which they assigned him a job and a place to live. This is communism, right? And by the way, and you've had hundreds of thousands of Jews that did this, and they gave everything that Germany gave them to the state. And that's why today in Israel, in 2020, what year are we in? 4? Almost 5? You actually have Holocaust survivors who are living in extreme poverty. I cannot believe this. They were persecuted for being Jews. They come here, they gave everything they had to the government, and now they have nothing, living in poverty and in subhuman conditions. This is truth. Okay. Anyway, So later on, the more American Jews would make Aliyah, the weaker their grasp became, and they reluctantly had to return to their work in the shadows. Ben-Gurion and his Zionists were responsible for the murder of over 1 million Jews in the death camps that we know of. There's the tragedy of Yaldei Teiman shortly after the establishment of the state, the Yemenite children. When there was a mass aliyah from Yemen in the late 40s and early 50s, the government placed them in camps and took halfway concentration camps and took their children away. In many cases, they reported that their children had died. Not infants necessarily, small children. But obviously this was a lie. Stories have come out about sending them to wealthy families around the world, let's say to be adopted, or in other cases, to be used as lab rats. So, for lack of a better description, yes, human trafficking. I know, it's terrible, but this happened, this is documented. We actually still have witnesses alive today of what happened. They wanted to weaken, if not get rid of, the next generation of Yemenite Jews for two reasons. One, they were primarily Orthodox Jews carrying centuries of tradition, which the new Zionist government sought to eradicate. Two, they weren't white. Oh yes. The ideal candidates for the modern Zionist state of Israel, Ben-Gurion talks about this, were young, strong, white Jews who would build the country. Now, I can go on and on and on and on about the shady business that has been done here in the modern Zionist state of Israel, but you get the idea. I hope you do. The very foundations that this state has been founded upon are rotten from the core. So when you hear famous people complaining about the Zionist this and the Zionist that, they're not wrong, but they're also so very wrong. We have to make a separation, but they are not, because to them, a Jew, a Zionist, an Israeli, it's all the same things. And again, if you even ask an Orthodox Jew living in Israel today, are you a Zionist? They'll say, yeah, of course I'm a Zionist. They think something else, somebody else hears it, and they associate it with something else. And then the real Zionists are like, oh, sucker, and that's what's going on. So, look at me. I am a Zionist, okay? If you ask me, yes, I am a Zionist in the sense that I believe what the Torah says, what the prophets say, what the writings say, what the sages say, what halacha says, and that is that Jews must return to the land of Israel. I proudly served in the IDF. So did my father before me, my sister, my brother. My brother is still serving, my cousins, family member, friends. We all served in the army proudly. My grandma, a survivor of Auschwitz death camps, because she was 12 years old at the time, she had small fingers, so they made her sew the SS uniform Nazi ranks on their uniforms. And then 50 years later, she started sewing our ranks on the IDF uniforms. You understand what a full circle? What pride this is? So again, when I say they're Zionists, sure, of course they're Zionists, but that is not the kind of Zionists that they are. That's why there's a whole mishmash here, and that's what this class has come to tell you. There must be a separation. Okay? Anyway. All right. So, like we said, there is something even more nefarious beneath the surface here. So you have the origins of Zion, right? Like where this Zion came from. You have the modern day Zionists, and we're going to speak further about them later on. And now we're going to a deeper level, okay? Something beneath the surface that even hides itself within the modern Zionist state. Now, you don't have to believe any of what I'm saying, but the powers that be, they do. The numbers by far surpassed 6 million in the Holocaust. They just thought that most people wouldn't be able to handle 8, 9, or 10 million. The Holocaust killed our bodies, this is true. But the modern Zionist state of Israel was designed to kill our souls. And so, where the Nazis failed, the state of Israel, again, the modern Zionist state and their intentions of Israel, or so they believed. That's what they were trying to do. Answer me this. From a Jewish standpoint, before God, which is worse? Okay? We're talking about Orthodox Jews right now. Which is worse? If a Jew is murdered for being a Jew, or if a Jew lives a life like the rest of the nations without any attachment or relationship to God, which is worse? The answer is very, very obvious. And depending on how you answer, you should know exactly how and where you stand. We have 3 commands that are Yehareg ubal ya'avor. You must choose death over transgression. And they are sexual immorality, bloodshed, and idolatry. Okay? Sexual immorality. Engaging in any kind of sexual activity with anyone before you are married or in a kosher union. So, you know how they present it today is like, okay, if a person goes and sleeps with a lot of people, right? That's a whole lot worse than a person in a loving relationship with their girlfriend just being with their girlfriend. Which is worse? Same thing. That whole, no, well, that's so much better because it's committed and it doesn't matter. You're still transgressing the commands in the Torah. You see? That whole grayness over there, that's that distortion we were talking about a few classes ago. And even if you are in a kosher union with your wife, but she has not gone yet to the mikveh, and someone puts a gun to your head and says, sleep with your wife right now, let alone anyone else outside of holy matrimony, guess what? You must choose death. You right now will be thinking, well, surely that is ridiculous, and I would never do that. I would transgress and repent later, but I'll live. That's not the point. 2, bloodshed. This only includes the spilling of seed. It doesn't only include the spilling of seed, by the way, as well as evil speech. So in other words, you have spilling the seed, you have evil speech, including murder, yes. For whoever engages in that, it's like you killed the person, evil speech, while they're still alive, destroying their name and reputation. If someone puts a gun to your head and tells you, go kill this person or that person or be killed, you choose death over taking a life. Idolatry. Remember the Spanish Inquisition? Thousands upon thousands of Jews broke this rule, kissed the cross, confessed Yeshu as Lord and Savior so not to be killed. These are called anusim, as in they were forced. By the way, ones it's a forced move, but also in modern day Hebrew, ones is rape. So in other words, you are being forced. The right choice was death, but they chose to live as Christians. Unfortunately, many today in Israel have fallen to that side, married non-Jews, take on their faith, taking their faith and thereby all their belief system, transgressing this both idolatry and sexual immorality. Because if you're married to a non-Jew, you're not really married. You see what I'm saying? Okay. If you are a Jew. Don't be hating on Jews. These are our laws. This is not given by man. This is given by God. Don't marry any of the families of the land. It's very simple. It's in the 5 books of Moses. Take it up with him. Now, can we judge anyone who chose life and transgression over death in God's name? In other words, let's say, kiss the cross or die. We cannot judge any of them, right? Because they're not there by themselves. They're there with their families. And Lord knows the kind of torture devices they had back then, for goodness sakes. So we don't judge anybody. There's a reason that anyone who chooses death over any of these options is elevated to the highest levels of the supernal heaven and will not even be judged in the great day of judgment. All their tikkunim, rectifications, have been complete, and they are perfect, kedoshim, tzadikim, teorim. Okay? Holy, righteous, and pure. But not everyone can do this. That's why it's very, very difficult. Not everyone can do this, nor does just anyone have the opportunity to do this. So again, we don't judge, but God will. That being said, going back to our point, killing our bodies versus killing our souls. There's one simple answer as to which one is worse. I'm going to translate a portion from the book Degel Machane Ephraim, Rabbi Moshe David Ephraim, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. In regard to the Haftarah of Parashat Kitavo, when you enter the land of Israel, from the verses in Isaiah 60, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has shone upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and a gross darkness the kingdom, and the Lord shall shine upon you, and his glory shall appear over you. And nations shall go by your light, and kings by the brilliance of your shine. Lift up your eyes all around and see, they all have gathered, they have come to you. Your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters shall be raised on their side. This is speaking of the final redemption, obviously, and the underlying plan of the powers that be. And I will tell you now, Zionism, modern day secular Zionism with everything that we just read, okay, just like Nazism, is nothing more than a tool. They have their strings pulled as well. And unfortunately, in their core, there are many similarities between the two. They are both rooted in white supremacy and nationalism. So, to our verses and their plan. When the King, the Holy One, blessed be He, breaks down all the barriers and begins to reveal himself to his beloved son Israel, he tells him, "Arise, my beloved son," as he stretches forth the gold scepter and strengthens him. This is from Degel Machane Ephraim. He dresses him with his light and his majesty, crowning his son with his crown, with his own crown, saying, "The only reason I have brought you about, that have brought about all this calamity upon you and these trials upon you, was to test you, to know what is in your heart, your reverence and love for me." It's got to be squeezed out of it. Otherwise, we ourselves will not know it. "And now, my beloved son," in other words, you're done. "Now, my beloved son, go through the entire world, for I have given you of my majesty, Hod, and my light illuminates your face, and you shall gird yourself with my garments, and a crown placed on your head, so that the nations of the earth know that you are my son." My firstborn son is Israel, right? Don't forget that. "All the fear that you have experienced and the hiddenness that you have suffered," because we suffer when God hides his face. "All this was so that nations, those who hate you, should not come close to you to become part of you." God doesn't want any foreigners in the nation. We're not talking about true converts. True converts were always Israel. They were just born on the outside. Okay? We're talking about the Erevav, the fakers who want to join the winning team. No. That's why we were so despised in the Galut. Those who do not want good for you, those who accuse you, slander you, listen now. Those who do not want you to inherit your kingdom, but rather they want it for themselves, for they know that so long as you live, they will never have their kingdom. Therefore, when they come before me, they will slander you and tell of the ugly deeds which you went and did with them after their counsel in the house of foolery. In other words, they said, "Come hang out with us. Look what your son is doing. He's doing what we're doing, and we are despicable." Your son is doing what is despicable, and you would have been engulfed completely by evil if I would have listened to their report to reject you and expel you from me, so they may rule over your kingdom. And now, my son, do not fear or fret. In other words, they set you up. It's entrapment. That is what the nations do to Israel. "We love you. Be one of us. We accept you. Whatever. It's all good. Oh, well, I guess I am being a light unto the nations. A fool unto the nations for sure. And now, my son, do not fret, for your light is my light, and all of my kingdom belongs to you, and to you all shall bow after you return to me," tshuva, right? "Only after I see your longing." Squeezed, longing, tshuva, coming home, everything. "But they will not come before me to see the light of my face, for they cannot because of the separations that have been placed through fear and terror all around. And so, do to them whatever is right in your sight, all those who refuse to submit to you." The very simple and basic understanding of our dynamics within the nations is this: when they accept us, when they embrace us, when they include us, it is all a lie. The only reason they wish to include us is so that we can live as they do, a life that has nothing to do with Torah. And they will do everything in their power to do so, because they know so long as you live, so long as your Jewish soul is alive, they cannot rule. And so they entice you, corrupt you, under the guise of love, acceptance, equal opportunity. You're one of us now. They will trip you up and make you fall for the sole purpose of ridiculing you and accusing you before me and the whole world. This is your son Israel. He is no better than we are. Do you understand the point? All this happened in Germany. This happened. People were in parliament. They were in the highest ranks of government, never on the top, just like, again, God-fearing Jews today, even in Israel, are never on, almost close to, but there's always got to be somebody over there keeping the good Jew in check, you see. What would hurt, or rather disrespect God more? Humiliating Israel on a global stage? If you kill Israel, only for those slain because they are Jews to ascend to the highest of heavenly heights, bringing honor and glory to his name while defying the very dark forces who wish to end us and separate us from him, or letting God see that we allow the nations what we allow the nations to do to us, to corrupt us, contort our ideas of morality under the guise of social justice, the lie that is modern Judeo-Christian values, the ways of the nations, the ways of the world, essentially making our identity in who we truly are, not externally, but internally assimilate and blend in, making ourselves irrelevant. You could kill us, take us out, but our soul is still alive. This way corrupts our soul, and in the process bringing shame to the name of God. And that is the plan of those who welcomed us and accept us into their fold. Any world system, any world government, it does not matter. The only reason they do this is to try and mock God. What the world does to Israel is what Satan does to the world. Get your attention, to entice you, invite you, convince you to do something you wouldn't otherwise do, and have you do it, to point out where to the point where you yourself are insisting on doing that, to make you believe that this is really what you want to do. It's entrapment. And spiritually speaking, guess what? It's 100% legit for them to do it. I don't think any Jew would have thought that Jews could behave the way they did publicly against other Jews. I went to high school here in Israel. I went to 3 different high schools, okay? I went to high school in Israel where kids were throwing Tanakhs at each other's heads, ripping out pages. Today, Orthodox Jews are being pursued by the Israel media, inciting hatred, crashing Yom Kippur prayers with bullhorns, tasers, beers, and shots in the holiest time of our year. This is not that especially not the work of Jews, but the Erev Rav who pose as Jews in order to fulfill the Zionist dreams. Ask these guys, ask them, are you Zionist? Of course we're Zionist. And yet you're going to destroy the prayer at the where the Jews were gathering on Yom Kippur to pray. This is obviously what led to what came shortly after. So what is their dream? It is to have a modern socialist state of Israel where Jews can and will lose their religion. Another example of that is how humane our military is and how insanely stupid our rules of engagement are. No other military in the world would supply our enemies, who we are currently fighting with, who are holding our people hostage, and give them aid. No other military in the world would be so careful as to not hit a non-combatant who is used as a human shield while putting our own soldiers at risk. These are not rules and laws of real Jews. These are the rules of the modern-day social secular Zionists. We were never told to fight this way. We are strong when we are united, untouchable even. Why then does our Supreme Court and media and government divide us? That is the true face of modern day social secular Zionism, hiding behind the guise of the real concept of Zionism, the return to Zion, for Jews to be in Israel and build a temple as one, united. We are anything but united here. More so beneath the surface. Make no mistake. I speak to my friends and family when they're in Gaza or Lebanon or whatever. Orthodox, secular, they don't care. They're fighting together. You're my brother. I will die for you. I went to yeshiva. I went to seculars. No one cares. They're all one. But again, the Supreme Court, the government, the ministers, the news channels, the people in charge, the guys who have the eyes and ears of the public, they are sowing division between the people. Our core is good. Our core is good. This is also the difference. The heads of the military, the soldiers that are fighting and dying, got to make a distinction here. So when fools who are famous go on interviews or post videos or any other ridiculous misinformed moron says, the Zionists are out to get me, or the Zionists are supremacists, they mean these people in their core, but they make no distinction between the real Jews and the fake ones. And that is the problem. As far as they are concerned, all Jews are these kinds of Zionists. The same Zionists that pull the strings. They are the ones that we all need to fear. But they do not represent Israel. To the world they do, but they do not represent Israel, nor the Jews in any way, shape, or form. They are wolves in sheep's clothing, and the jig is up. The world has yet to catch up on this, though. Was Mel Gibson wrong when he said in his drunken rant, and I quote, the Jews are the cause of all the problems in the world? No, he wasn't. I agree with Mel Gibson, though I'm sure he meant it in a very different way because he makes no distinction. We know that we live as we're supposed to live, right? If we live as we are supposed to live, at peace with one another, following the laws that God gave us to distinguish us from the rest of the world, from the rest of the nations, then the world would experience, everyone else would experience peace and prosperity. But when we live like the world, God will send the nations to remind us that we don't belong there, that we are not one of them. That is anti-Semitism, and superficially, it makes no sense, right? But now that you know this, it should make perfect sense. God is the one who sends the nations to correct us. So, he was right. We are the cause to all the problems in the world. If we did good, he should be saying, we are the cause to all the goodness in the world. And again, it's just going to get worse. Just shows you how far off we are. There are actually people out there in the tens, if not hundreds of millions around the world who actually believe that these, I'm not even joking, I couldn't believe when I saw this, a bunch of old rabbis sitting in a basement with their Kabbalah witchcraft, and they plan to take over the world by showing videos of them read prophecy in the Bible. I know this because I was in one of these videos. I couldn't believe it. When I saw this, it was like, oh, cool, okay. A friend of my father's sent me this video. He's like, check it out, you're in it. I'm like, okay, cool. And I see this rabbi talking about, prophecy, that rabbi talking about prophecy, that just basically reading from the Tanakh. And I'm like, oh, and there I am. Okay, cool. I think what I was quoting there was the Maharal from Prague, from the going into a new reality. All this is our sages and from the Torah, and I'm like, oh, wow. I'm not a rabbi, they're putting me there with them. Good stuff. I agree with everything they said. And then once you see the comments of these sections, I'm like, oh, this is an anti-Semitic channel. They're like, look what the Jews are planning. Who do you think these Jews are? The Zionists. No, you see the crazy mishmash over here? And then I saw that same section placed in another whole media thing, which I absolutely agree upon. We're talking about all the string pullers behind the scene. I agree with them 100%, but who's part of this problem? Let's see what the Zionists are doing. Same video clip with me in there. Like, dude, I'm sitting here in my office recording this, reading to you what it says in the Torah, but we're plotting to take over the world. Dummies. Really, dummies. No idea. Okay, in any case, let's continue. So unlike the Muslims, who for centuries would kill anyone who did not follow Islam, or the Christians, who for almost 2,000 years have murdered hundreds of millions in the name of their false god, at the end of the day, Jews, the real Jews, we just want to be left alone. Seriously, leave us alone. Give us our books. We're here in the land. End of story. Just leave it. Not. We don't need to take over the world. That's not our job. Y'all are doing it just fine. We're not planning world domination. We're not going to storm Temple Mount and kick the Arabs out of there. We do not agree with the way the government is run, nor do we agree with the existence of the corrupt Supreme Court. But we are called the people of the book for a reason. We are reading what God is going to do to the nations. God is going to do this to the nations. Nowhere does it say that we are going to do this to the nations. We have no power in this state anyway. But the nations, in their subconscious spiritual sense, they know this. And that is why the lie that is modern day Zionism can never allow this to happen. Another example, after the 6-Day War, where Israel was fighting off 7 Arab fronts, our greatest friend in the whole as wide as worlds did not support, that's America. They did not support us. They didn't give us weapons or munitions. All they did was tell us to stop advancing once we were winning. We'll touch on that. Otherwise, we would have completely conquered Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. We'd have a much bigger plot of land right now. We were fighting with homemade Uzis. Made them right here. That's right. Respect. British tanks with faucets in them for tea. No joke. In the old British, I don't know, new British tanks, but in the old British tanks, there is a faucet built into the turret made of metal and steel where, oh, it's tea time, chaps. Okay. British tanks and French fighter jets, the Mirages. There was no USA in the 6-Day War. But when they saw that we won against all odds, again, it made no sense. When they saw what happened, when they saw that they could not even teach our battle tactics to their troops because nothing we did followed any kind of battle strategy or protocol. 2 fighter jets against 30, we drop down 20 and the rest flee. Do that, guy, Air Force, good hunting. No, it's not going to work, okay? When they saw this, they realized, these Jews, they still got power. And if we don't step in and become that power to rely upon, they might just realize that there is a God and he still is on their side. Yeah, so that happened externally and internally. Are you aware that we completely conquered Temple Mount from Jordan? From Jordan, because it's Georgia. From Jordan, we complete 6-Day War, we had Temple Mount, everything. Could have done anything. We were this close to clearing the mosque and paving the way for our third temple. We were this close for the actual exile to start to be over. But the powers that be would never allow that. So what happened? Moshe Dayan, look him up, our cycloptic Freemason defense minister, decided on his own accord, not on his own accord, obviously, with his overlords, to give back Temple Mount to Jordan for no reason and for nothing in return. What, did you conquer it? Did you die for it? No. The soldiers on the ground did, but you're going to give that back. Our holiest place, you're going to give it to Jordan. And thus remains the status quo until this very day. This is the same status quo that seems to just sit fine with the Jews around the world, especially our government, whomever they may be, left, right, whatever. Another interesting thing I want to tell you about is the modern nation Zionists. Like we said, their goal is to remove Judaism from the Jew, because that's the worst thing that they can do. 150 years ago, get this, the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim from Baghdad, was asked by his students. They said, "Rabbi, please give us a sign before the coming of Mashiach." To which he replied, "You have all the signs. You got Masechet Sanhedrin, Masechet Sotan, so on. We covered this in these classes." which are all the signs that I presented to you, like I said, because it's general knowledge. You want to know what signs we're living in? Oh, yeah, this is now. Yep, this is now. They said, but Rabbi, can you give us a little something extra? Something that perhaps isn't written in the books. For those of you who do not know who the Ben Ish Chai is, there are accounts from his students that he was emanating light. So they always knew before he was about to enter the Beit Midrash because they saw a light at the door. He's always here. Whenever I speak of him, he's this guy, Ben Ish Chai. Okay? Very cool. Very good stuff. Okay, anyway. So this story, the story of this question, right, that his students asked him was told by the grandson of one of the students that was present in the room when this question was asked. So the rabbi replied to them and said, know this. You want that sign? Know this. When the daughters of Israel will walk around half covered in the land of Israel, Mashiach will come shortly after. Why was this so insane at the time? 150 years ago, right? For several reasons. One, they were living in Baghdad under Ottoman rule, and the dream of coming to Israel was just that, of a dream for all the Jews to return to the land of Israel. Two, for a daughter of Israel, a Jewish woman, to walk around half naked was something quite literally unimaginable at that time. Jewish women are humble, righteous women. Well, at least that's how they used to be. And three, for a Jewish woman to walk around the streets half naked in the land of Israel, that was all but fiction. In other words, you're getting these two aspects and putting it, no, they would never do that anywhere. We don't have Israel, but they who would never do it anywhere would be in a place that we can't even foresee getting back anytime soon, and that's going to happen? What is he saying? When you walk through the streets of Israel today, not only in Tel Aviv, but here in Jerusalem, you see young girls from ages 8 or 10 walking around the streets with tiny little nothings, tucking their shirts into their bras. I don't know who started this trend. This is like, what are you serious? Like, no joke. T-shirts with bra, just tucking it. I don't understand. Saying that they are only half covered is a gross understatement. So that happened. But the rabbi wasn't finished. He continued and said, and it is because of this, because the holy daughters of Israel will walk around the holy land of Israel half covered, the young men of Israel will die by the sword, meaning war. The death toll for our soldiers is approaching 1,000 rapidly, losing 7 just the other day. Tell me the rabbi's words are not on point, unfortunately. We are like the rest of the nations. That is their plan, and they are exceedingly good at it. And they know this too, since it says, the Holy One, blessed be He, hates sexual lewdness. It's called zima. From Masechet Sanhedrin 106a, Bilam, right, said to them, the God of these, meaning of Israel, despises lewdness, and they desire linen garments. Come, and I will give you advice. How, again, this is what happened with the end of Parshat Balak, the beginning of Parshat Pinchas, with the Midianites, right? Make for them enclosures usually using wall hangings and seat prostitutes in them, with an old woman outside in the enclosure and a young woman inside, and have the woman sell them linen garments. This is from Bilam, how they should dress to make sure to cause problems, just like you see it today. We lost 24,000 Israelites because of that sexual lewdness. You think they don't know how this works? They know our books even better than the majority of us do. The upside to all of this is that we know the Mashiach, thank God, is right here. I want you to listen to this next part, see how it makes you feel, and try and think of who could write such a thing, okay? All right. The characteristics of the Jewish people is invalid from the days of old until now. Never a nation that creates and always lived lives of gypsies and dogs. What is your problem with anti-Semites? Why don't you understand the obvious, their hate and contempt for the nation of Israel? In other words, it's obvious that they would hate Israel. What are you blaming them for? The Jews are an infestation, slimy and contemptible, a rotten egg, not a man, injured dogs. The European nations, though they suffocated the Jew the way one suffocated something despicable, are worthy of honor and respect, for Jews are not human. We are mundane. Give a little hint over there. We are mundane and unimportant, and immoral beyond our control, for we have no power of our own, nor is the core of our lives, because the curse is upon us and our descendants, because we are dependent upon others. The Jew is a parasite. The Jew is anti-establishment. There is nothing sacred for the Jew. The Jew is not really tied to anything in truth. Only for monetary gain do his eyes follow. The entire religious and rabbinical fabrication throughout the exile are the words of a dead God, instead of the living God, a dead God. Oy vavoy. And our rabbinical heritage would have been better if it didn't fall on us. The most significant and valuable creations for the people of Israel are all taken from other nations. His conclusion: that the tree, the root and branches that is the Jew should be plucked out of this world because his personality is rotten, inside and out. Therefore he has no rectification. Once he is plucked out, a new tree must be planted, one that is like the cultured nations. For if we do not conform and become like the nations, we will be lost. And as far as I'm concerned, the New Testament is our new book, bone of our bone, flesh of our flesh. And if a Jew comes and wishes to join us, should he keep his beard and his peyot, he will be considered a second-class citizen. Who wrote this? This is Jewish author Yosef Chaim Brenner. They name streets after him. They name schools after him. He is an Israeli Zionist hero. Did you hear how he spoke? It's like what you could potentially hear today if you turn on certain news stations. In Israel, Jews are parasites and all that stuff. Okay. You need to understand something. This man, this self-hating Jew, this piece of human filth, I can say it and I don't regret it, is considered to be a legendary folk hero in Israel. Look what it says about him in his bio. Brenner earned himself a reputation for his frugal lifestyle and his courage to go against conventions. These qualities, along with his tragic death in the riots of 1921, created an aura around him that made him an almost legendary figure in the literary and cultured history of the land of Israel. In his writings, Brenner praised Zionist endeavors, but also contradicted himself, contending that the land of Israel was just another diaspora and no different from the other diasporas. Brenner was considered the most influential of all the authors and writers for the Mapai movement. That's the foundation of the left today, what became the Haganah, Ben Gurion, and Yitzhak Rabin, and all those guys. The most influential of authors for the Mapai movement. So again, we're also talking about Herzl and everything. Peres, Dayan, all the other winners. Yes, Zionist dream, right there. From the writings of other anti-Semitic self-hating Jews, just so you get the idea of the heroes and the muses of Israel were, whose values reflected those who established the modern Zionist state. Again, you will see this. They have nothing. Self-hating Jews. Frischman, also schools, districts, streets, and everything. What did he say? The lives of Jews are the lives of dogs. Arousing disgust. Berdichevsky, also an author. Not a people, not a nation, not a man. A.D. Gordon, also author, and the leader of the Labor Party. The Jew was, all these are guys in the past. again, the founders. The Jews are parasites, false people at their core, and there is no rectification for the Jew. We must take the dust of man that is called the Jew and try and make a new nation of him in a new land. The first mission that stands before us is to take his Torah, the Jews talking about other and his Torah, and bury it with memories past. And instead of his religion, he must take a new religion, that of labor. This is communism, by the way. Here's another one, Echad Ha'am. It's time to do something great because great Westerners are walking before us. And when asked by a Russian author about the validity of the claim of the world against the Jews, meaning all the nations of the world hate the Jew, so who's right and who's wrong here? This is what he says, right? Echad Ha'am agreed with him and said, the nations of the world are correct, just like the mitzvot that are written in the Shulchan Aruch, right? Our book of how to live, which extrapolates the mitzvot from the 5 books of Moses, they're slavery, as are we slaves to the Torah. And so we must break free of this and become free men and embrace the national spirit. And how are we to live as a Zionist nation in the land? We must remove Torah from our midst, and every man should live according to his best self. In other words, everyone does what they see fit, but no Torah. Humanism. I'd say we've had several thousands of years to prove how that does not work. Here's another one. Here's a poet. Chaim Azaz. Zionism and Judaism are not the same thing. Finally, someone gets it. There are two completely separate things as they are conflicting from one another. Thank you. When a man, a Jew, can no longer be a Jew, he becomes a Zionist. And the origin of Zionism is the destruction of Judaism. Preach, brother. This guy's a Zionist, obviously, right? And so how can one no longer be a Jew when he removes the yoke of Torah from him, according to him? Yes, right? One can never stop being a Jew. Even if you convert to another religion, you're always a Jew, and you're going to be judged as a Jew, okay? Look at all these guys influencing all of our guys. Oh, here's some more from David Ben-Gurion. David Ben-Gurion's words. We are now starting a new life in Israel, meaning a total disconnect from our history over the last thousands of years. New page, new people, new everything. He redefined the meaning of Judaism and called it Israeliyut, Israelism. That's what, no, I'm not a Jew, I'm an Israeli, you see. Meaning from Israel. So this is all name recognition. It doesn't matter. He said, and I quote, if I know that I can save all the Jews of Germany from the Nazis by moving them all to live in England, or save only half by moving them to Israel, I will choose the latter. That's sick and twisted. Do you understand what he's saying? According to him, the land and his new Israel is more important than the lives of Jews. This man never cared about Jews, but his agenda. Those who would come to Israel are Erev Rav. Talk about irony. I mean, he's saying this, are Erev Rav. With no language, he's talking about the actual Jews from the Arab nations who are coming to Israel. Those who would come to Israel are Erev Rav, with no language, and are no more than the dust of man, no education, no roots. We must reform them into our society, and it will not be easy. So he's talking about taking the Judaism out of the Jew. I am saddened by the deaths in Europe, Crimea River, right? But not as some might see it. But rather, in other words, I'm not sad that Jews are dead, but rather my regret is that the waves of Aliyah after the establishment of the state was primarily from Arab countries who lacked anything significant to build a market, as most of the white candidates, died in the Holocaust. That's why he said, you guys, Those 6 million who were killed, they possessed what we needed to build the nation, or a lot of them. To try and train one of them, Jews from Arab nations who came, to sit on a toilet like a human being, to bathe,
not to steal, not to grab a girl and rape her, for without training, they cannot serve us in our military. Where was this said? This was said in an IDF High Command conference in 1950. He said this publicly. Yes, he's anti-Semitic racist, self-hating racist. This is exactly what this is. The first prime minister, his speech goes on, but honestly, it gets worse. Look it up yourselves. You get the point. And what he did do was all the Jews that came from Yemen and from Morocco and other African and Middle Eastern countries, he placed them, this is what we're talking about, not those that they cut their beards and payos and put them in the kibbutzim in order to conform them, the ones that came a little bit later, he placed them on the settlements on the borders to act as cannon fodder, while the white European Jews were placed on the inside in luxurious communes, the kibbutzim, with swimming pools. And he dared to lift up a Tanakh. He held a Tanakh. That's why, no, he believed in God because he was standing there on the stage. This is a famous thing. And he holds up a Tanakh saying to the world, this book says that this land belongs to us. He said this. So people are like, oh, look, he clearly, because what? Because he waved that about? How about, do you follow anything that's in this book? No. Put the book down. Thank you very much. How's your keeping Shabbos going? Ezekiel 20:32 says, but what enters your mind shall not come about. What you say, let us be like the nations, like the families of the lands, to serve wood and stone. Wood, Christians, stone, Muslims, right? Basically, the entire world is. They tried so hard to get rid of who we are. If we can't take Jews out of Torah, then we'll just have to take the Torah out of the Jew. And what better place to do that than in the land of Israel? They all want to come here, right? Let's do that. You know what's going to happen to these self-hating Jews, right? To these Erev Rav, Amei Haaretz, who hate anything that has to do with God, but foam at the mouth when another Jew loves God and follows his commandments. It's written about them too in Isaiah 66. The other day I was reading Tana de Be'eliyahu, and he speaks of the verse in Isaiah 66:5 that says, hearken to the word of the Lord, who quake at his word. Your brethren who hate you, them, who cast you out, said, for the sake of my name, the Lord shall be glorified. But we will see your joy, and they shall be ashamed. Your brethren is exactly that, is exactly them. From here our sages said, great, this from Tana de Be'eliyahu, greater is the hatred of Amei Haaretz hate the students of the law, meaning Jews who hate the students of the law. Whenever you see right now anybody talking, oh, you Haredis and you Orthodox and you this, you parasites, they're saying on the news, right? Greater is the hatred that Amei Haaretz hate the students of the law than the hatred of the nations towards Israel. The self-hating Jews, it's more difficult for us than the nations. Am haaretz are those who do not read Torah. That's the bottom line. Because if one of them would actually get into it, they would by default no longer be Am haaretz, because they would change. Reading everything we just did confirms this, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. I keep going back to the Yom Kippur that started it all. Absolute shame. But these are them. Let's read. You know what? I just want you to see. If anybody didn't see it, just do Yom Kippur in Israel in October. Okay, Yom Kippur, October 2023 in Tel Aviv. You'll see the footage there. You cannot believe that these are Jews screaming at other Jews. I hate you, cursing at them while the ark is open during Kol Nidrei and during Neilah the day afterwards in Yom Kippur. Women coming there, exposing themselves. It is unheard of, and yet all this has been written that this is going to happen now. And this is how the state was founded on that. It is not saying that this is how the state is now, but that is the foundation of the state. Other things happen, things that are beyond their control because God is in control. But again, we're trying to make a distinction to show you who is who, okay? So let's read the verse before this one, and even better in understanding and for better understanding, we'll keep reading until verse 10. God is telling us exactly how the modern day Zionist state of Israel was born. I too will choose their mockeries, and their fears I will bring to them. Since I called and no one answered, I spoke and they did not hearken, and they did what was evil in my eyes, and what I did not wish they chose. Hearken to the word of the Lord, who quake at his word, your brethren who hate you, who cast you out. For the sake of my name, the Lord shall be glorified, but we will see your joy, and they shall be ashamed. There is a sound of stirring in the city, a sound from the temple, the voice of the Lord recompensing his enemies. When she has not yet travailed, she has given birth. When the pang has not yet come to her, she has been delivered a male child, my firstborn son, Israel. Who heard anything like this? Who saw anything like these? Is a land born in one day? Is a nation born at once, that Zion both experienced birth pangs and bore her children? In 1948, they declared State of Israel. Boom, there's a nation. It was written 2,700 years ago. Will I bring to birth stool and not cause to give birth, says the Lord? I am not he who causes to give birth. Now should I shut the womb, says our God? Rejoice with Jerusalem and exalt in her all those who love her. Rejoice with her rejoicing, all who mourn over her. Those of your brothers who hate you and God have an idea. Those who hate their brothers will be put to shame. The idea of the modern Zionist state of Israel, removing God, removing Judaism from the Jew, right? Those who hate their brothers, then they will be put to shame. God will recompense his enemies. A nation will be born in one day, in Zion, 1948. Time to rejoice, because the time of the redemption is right now. We definitely have something to look forward to. More to come. Moshe Mendelssohn Sherry established the Enlightenment movement. It started with the Reform movement. And what is the Reform movement? Yeah, we're sort of Jews, but when it's convenient for us, meaning they do not follow the laws of the Torah, not even the Ten Commandments. Naturally, what follows would be self-hatred. That usually stems from this. When you know that what you are doing is wrong, in other words, you have a responsibility. When you know that what you are doing is wrong, but you don't want to conform to that system, you reform it instead. So now it's not that you are wrong, chas v'shalom, right? But anyone who is a Jew and lives according to the Jewish system, they're wrong. You are enlightened. There you go. And so it's not surprising that 4 out of Mendelssohn's 6 children converted to Christianity. And of his 9 grandchildren, only 1 remained a Jew. So out of 15, 3 remain Jews. That's exactly 20%. We know the significance of 20%. That is all who will remain. 20% left Egypt. 80% were taken in the darkness. As it was, so it will be. The system, mind you, the one they rejected, is what we have been given on Mount Sinai almost 3,500 years ago from God. Or, like God told Samuel, when the people wanted a king like the rest of the nations, God said to Samuel, they are not rejecting you, they are rejecting me. You can thank the Reform movement today for the loss through assimilation of millions of Jews over the last 150 years in the European countries. When a Jewish man marries a non-Jewish woman, his children are no longer Jews. And just like that, almost 4,000 years of history gone, essentially doing the Nazis' work for them. But also through that corruption, which is even worse. All these winners, these self-haters we are learning about, they came out of there. These are the same Jews who struggled with the core values of the Jewish faith, who ridiculed the sages and blasphemed God to please their Gentile hosts. And make no mistake, not for 1 second, this movement began in Germany in the modern age. Before that, it was the enlightened Greeks who Hellenized many of the Jews. And you can read all about that. Jews had specific surgeries to uncircumcise their circumcision because they would train in the nude, right? They would do their all wrestling and all their Olympic games. And they wanted to be like Greeks. Oh, you want to be like the nations. So remove from yourself anything that would even make you look like a Jew. These self-hating turncoat Jews in the Greek days, they would inform on their brethren. They're keeping Shabbos, they're lighting candles, they're doing mitzvahs, learning Torahs, and the Greeks would seize them. So nothing really changed. We always have those. The moment the Jews, self-hating as they may be, live like non-Jews, a good hard smack is soon to follow. The Holocaust was a direct result of the Enlightenment movement. 80% of European Jews have already assimilated into Gentile society before World War II. It's almost like the Holocaust, though it took out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million Jews. More were gone before that. Those guys that were taken out, we're talking about Kedoshim, it's almost like they stopped the assimilation. But did that save them from the gas chambers? We are enlightened, we are like you? No, it did not. 3 generations back Hitler took. Remember, if Jews forget who they are, the nations will remind them. God has a system. It's called Kiddush veHavdalah. Okay, it's like what we say on Shabbat, to welcome the Shabbat, we say Kiddush, and then at the end we say Havdalah. But Kiddush comes from the word lekadesh, something that is holy, right? The Jew wishes to call something that is impure and mundane holy, in this case, the enlightened ones, the reformed. Oh, the ways of the nations, they are holy. I'm going to call them Kiddush, Kadosh. Then I will make sure that the nations will do Havdalah. What is Havdalah? Lehavdil, separation. If you call something that is mundane holy, I will make sure that that which you call holy, that is mundane, it is going to make a separation from you. You want to kiss the butt of Esav and Amalek? You want to be like them? You want to call yourselves enlightened to the ways of the world while forsaking your very purpose for existence? You want to be German first and then Jews? Maybe. No problem. It will be the Germans who will remind you of who you are. This is exactly the same thing that happened in Shushan, Achashverosh, Purim story, when the Jewish nobles and the politicians partook in Achashverosh's debaucherous festivities for 180 days. You wanted to be Persians first, then Jews? You forgot who you were? No problem. It will be the Persians who will remind you of who you are. And what? Do you think today is any different? Come, let me show you what is about to happen in the land of the free and the home of the brave. To the Jews. That's right, everyone is so happy about the recent election results, especially the Jews. What is shown is not necessarily the truth. It rarely is. They have their own plans. But Solomon said in Proverbs 19:21, there are many thoughts in man's heart, but God's plan, that shall stand. And thank God for that. This man will save us, they say. We're talking about the Orthodox Jews. This man will save us, they say. This man will eradicate anti-Semitism. This man will make it so Jews can live in peace and prosperity in the land that is not their own. Does it not say in Jeremiah 17:5, so says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in a man and makes flesh his arm, and whose heart turns away from the Lord? Yes, he does. If you are looking for a man to save you while you shun your responsibility as a Jew and choose to remain in a foreign land for the sake of prosperity, while your brothers are holding down the fort in the land that is theirs, because this is where God commanded his children to be, then how do you think they live, the Jews, in their land, I mean? They live like Jeremiah 17:7. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. The Lord shall be his trust. Come here. It may not be easy, but this is where God told us to live. And so we could only turn to God and say, hey, this is on you. And God says, good point. But you can't do so anywhere else outside the land of Israel. If you're in the States or the UK or France, first of all, what are you, nuts? Second of all, good luck with it. But God, what are you doing there? Money, convenience, whatever, anything. Yes. Now, who do you think is going to have a better outcome? Those in the land or those outside of land? And if you think I'm joking or exaggerating, then let me read some words of the leaders of the American Orthodox Jewry. Okay? Most Jews, again, I'm picking on leaders here. Okay? It says it in the Zohar, the leader. No, we got no leaders. That's why here I am. I'm not assuming a leadership position. I'm simply saying I'm a dude sitting in his office, recording a video, putting it on YouTube. That's where we're at, unfortunately. I hope the right people hear this. Any case, here we go. The leaders. This is from a leading Orthodox Anglo-Saxon magazine distributed in Israel. My wife asked me not to say. Titled, Making America Good Again. Yep. I'm quoting, there are events and moments that force us to reconsider our fundamental assumptions and relationships. This is true of the tsunami of anti-Semitism that has surged in America and worldwide. For decades, the Jewish community has experienced life in the United States virtually free of anti-Semitism. This was completely in character of our country, for a country that looked to create a great society. Then he invokes Abraham, of all people. You know, Lech Lecha, Abraham. Leave your birthplace, Abraham. Leave your father's house, Abraham. Leave your way of life, Abraham, and go into the land that I will give you, Abraham. This is what we call chutzpah. Don't speak of Abraham if you're not going to live like Abraham. And here's how it ends. There's this article filled with fluff. This is how it ends. That is where we need to be today. Our country. He's not talking about Israel. He's talking about America, says the rabbi Jew leader of the Jewish community in America, not a community, American Jewry. Our country needs more from us than we need from it. In our efforts for the foreseeable future, we must go beyond protecting ourselves or getting our fair share. We will do our part to uplift our country. I couldn't believe when I heard this. To ensure the continuity of America as a truly great society and a kingdom of kindness. Our country, he says. I mean, if history has proven anything. Now, the Jews in America can breathe easy. It's all going to be good from here on out. This is what people don't understand. It doesn't matter who is president. God's plan will stand. And God's plan is very clear. That's all we're doing here. No Jews will remain outside the land of Israel because that's not their place. You want to uplift your country? You want to stay there preaching Torah while you yourselves do not even follow it? It doesn't work. And so, you want to be American Jews? American first and then Jews? No problem. It will be the Americans who remind you of who you are. And if you think that there's no way that what happened in the past in Nazi Germany and in Rome and in Greece and all the other areas, and Shushan and Babylon, no, it wouldn't happen here. Then, my poor lost brothers and sisters, come, let me show you. There was no argument that Haman was from Amalek, right? We know this. There's no argument that Europe was or is Esav, right? Esav, Edom. So today, Edom is America as well. But the Nazis are of Amalek. So what do you think America is? See, that's the thing. The land of the free, home of the brave, land of opportunity, a land of great kindness. You know for a fact, you know this for a fact, because you teach this in your yeshivas, America is Edom. I'm talking again, Orthodox Jews. So you are living currently in Edom. You know this, right? And of course, not all of the Americans out there are out to get Jews, but no one in America is going to stop Amalek when this happens. Don't take it from me. Forget it. Take it from the most influential public figure in the world today. Publicly, the wealthiest, because privately there are trillionaires. Publicly, the wisest, because anyone who is to say what I'm about to share with you right now, their wisdom is questionable. And publicly, the most influential, since he does have the ear of the next president. Elon Musk said the following, and I could not believe this. Thanks, Mike, for sharing this with me, okay? But it's nice to be vindicated. And I quote, "America is new Rome. America was founded to be the true successor of ancient Rome, but most don't know how deep the parallels run. From its grid plans to its constitution, here's why we still live in Rome and why it won't collapse this time," says Elon Musk. And then underneath he posts an image of the Romans' golden eagle with the branches on its side and its wings spread, right next to the seal of the United States of America sprouting the same look. I wonder why he didn't also post the Nazis' logo of the Third Reich, the golden eagle. It's Rome, the same thing, right? Look at the colors are the same, for goodness sakes. It's identical. Then he posts SPQR. I had to look up this thing. SPQR, an initialism for Senatus Populus Romanus, the Senate and people of Rome, is an emblematic phrase referring to the government of the Roman Republic. Underneath that, someone posted a picture of the Romans burning down the temple in Jerusalem, carrying off the menorah. You can't make this stuff up, but thank you, Elon Musk, for everything that you have done. And for you, my fellow Jews of the diaspora, you keep building your country and see what happens. Or I can give you just a few sources. Lamentations 5:21-22, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, who dwells in the land of Uz. Upon you also shall the cup pass. You shall become drunk and vomit. The punishment of your iniquity is complete, O daughter of Zion. He will no longer send you into exile, but your iniquity, O daughter of Edom, he shall punish. He will reveal your sins." Psalms 137:7-8, "Remember, O Lord, the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, those who say, raise it down to its foundation. O daughter of Babylon, who is destined to be plundered, praiseworthy is he who repays your recompense that you have done to us, your country." We know very well, because we taught it here plenty of times, that when Edom, Rome, is built, Jerusalem cannot be built, and vice versa. They have no place in the world together. And so, since we do not have, what are the three things? The Shekhinah, right? Malchut Shamayim, Malchut Beit David, the establishment of the house of David, King Mashiach, and Beit HaMikdash. Jerusalem is not built, and therefore Rome must be built somewhere, where it is the world system today. Or in America, the new Rome, always Rome, everything great. So since we don't have a temple or a king, guess what? We're in exile, and Rome is most certainly up and running, your country. Now, what of the Jews who wish to support this Rome? They are in direct opposition of the word of God, right? Torah, I'm quoting sources here. And just like Moses pleaded with the children of Israel to remove themselves from the vicinity of Korach because the ground was about to swallow them, I fear that the worst might happen. It does say in Zechariah 13:8, and we'll get into this in next teachings, and it shall come to pass throughout all the land, meaning the world, says the Lord, 2 parts of it shall be cut off. They shall perish, and 1/3 shall remain therein. 2/3 of the world will be destroyed, except for the part of Israel's true border. Kids, it's time to come home. If not, your end will be as theirs, okay? You have to think about these things. You have to take this very, very seriously. All the signs are here, and it's happening right now. So please, come on home. Some of the most successful battle strategies throughout history are used to cause confusion, mass panic, fear, and of course, to divide and conquer. Remember that theme. Now, remember this because I'm going to give you examples that you're likely going to want to look at. So even these modern day secular socialist anti-Zionists, because that's what they are not the end all be all. Like we just discussed, they are nothing more than puppets themselves, used as tools. And so, who is in fact pulling the Zionist strings? What comes next is the part that most people have trouble with. But to you, I say, get over it, okay? Because nothing I'm about to present to you is a conspiracy theory. These are straight up conspiracies. These are facts, and feel free to look up everything that I'm saying out here. These facts are so in your face, so part of your day-to-day that you can't see it. This is, of course, by design, yes? But the moment you do see it, there's no going back. So right now, I'm the Morpheus to your Neo, pleading with you, it's time to wake up. You take the blue pill, you go back to your miserable and false existence and disappear along with the world as we know it. You take the red pill, well, you might not sleep again, but don't worry, like we said, everything is going to be over soon. Now remember, all I offer is the truth, okay? But this pill is going to be a tough one to swallow. So here goes. Many of you who've been watching the channel here for a while know that I don't do conventional. I've had an interesting journey, all of which it's all up on the channel. And once you see certain things, certain truths, you can no longer pretend that they're not there. You can't live like that anymore once you know the truth. You see, I took the red pill, and I would take it again. I always took the red pill. I never for once in my life ever thought, give me the truth, right? The thing is, as you can see in the world today, even the lie itself is no longer beautiful, right? I'll always take the inconvenient truth over the beautiful lie, but you can't even, the American dream. It doesn't, right? You get it. And now you see, it never really was beautiful to begin with. The lie, it's false. It doesn't exist. It's not real. There's no hiding this anymore, which is why people are breaking down all over the world as the real reality is hitting them, and they have no idea what's going on. There are no leaders, and this is by design. Like I said in past teachings, if you have to learn these things from me sitting here on a camera doing this thing on a YouTube channel, this should show you how desperate of a state we are in. And so, I'm operating on a different reality than I'm not saying this to boast. I'm saying this is my life, okay? How many friends do you think I have? How many people do you think I could have open conversations with? Every time I tried that, and I'm fine. I'm very entertaining, okay? I could entertain myself. It's all good. But this is what I'm saying. This is a different reality than most on all these levels because of what I've seen and what I know. And this is why the blue pills can't even have a conversation with me, and vice versa. That being said, I am sure you've heard the name before, Albert Pike. Yes, this is where it gets very spicy. Now, before you either roll your eyes or think for a second, where am I going with this? Just stick around for a bit, okay? Because I haven't heard anyone cover it the way I'm about to tell you before. A lot of people cover it, whether it's secular channels, the whole what's going on in the world, who also turn out to be anti-Semites, or other rabbis presenting this, okay? But I haven't heard anybody present it like this. They could take this and use it. Take it and use it. It's open. It's out there for everybody, but you need to see what is going on, okay? So, as always, please feel free to look up these things for yourself. Albert Pike was a Confederate general, an occultist, and a 33-degree Freemason. He was a real person. In fact, in the second, gonna steal the Declaration of Independence, National Treasure, Nicolas Cage. In the second one, which was not that good, Ed Harris, he says over there in the beginning of the movie, I come on the descendant of Confederate General Albert Pike. He was trying to steal the treasure. So this guy really exists. 33rd degree Freemason, occultist, and he has a monument in Washington, D.C. And if y'all don't know, America was founded by Freemasons. All of the founding fathers. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's actual George Washington Masonic Memorial in Virginia. and it's a Freemason president. And all the symbolisms are everywhere in the Western world. It's all there. Please look this up. It's right there. But back to Pike. In 1871, over 150 years ago, he wrote a famous yet questionable letter to Italian revolutionary Giuseppe Mazzini regarding the 3 world wars. Yes, this was in 1871. And guess what? Everything has happened exactly how he said he would. Now, was this man a prophet? Obviously, he was not a prophet, because what was he doing? What he was doing was actually revealing a plan, because that is what they do. Again, I'm going to reveal a bunch of things here. I'm not telling you everything I know, okay? You could go look for these things yourself, but you're getting snippets just enough for you to start questioning. What is the purpose of all this? Obviously, to get Jews to come back here, to bring about what we need to bring about, but not through the book, through Truva. Easy going there, you anti-Semites. All we're talking about is reading some books in our land. That's it. Anyway, we're going to go through his works, and you will see that they happened to a T. Has World War III happened yet? We're in the process. You'll see that too. So, okay. And then you will see also exactly what is to come according to their plan, which is really God's plan from our prophecies. Remember what we said about divide, confuse, and conquer? He wrote the following, and I quote. I'm going to read the sections and then I'll explain briefly. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati, the enlightened ones, yes? Enlightenment movement, enlightenment, they're all from the same root. The Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia, making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and to weaken the other religions. So let's break this down. As exactly what he wrote in 1871 took place between 40 and 50 years later, First World War, right? The Illuminati, aka the Enlightened Ones, which we will discuss exactly why they chose that name later. And by the way, where do you think the self-hating Jews Enlightenment movement was inspired from? Okay, they had to break apart the stronghold that is Europe, primarily giving a safe and unopposed rise to atheism, meaning something that could rival the belief in God. In this case, communist Russia. And in communism, there is no room for religion, as we have seen with the founders of the modern Zionist state of Israel, all communists. As he said, the Illuminati have agents in every government, in every agency, that's right, in every major company or organization throughout the Western world, and yes, and also in the Eastern world and Middle Eastern world. The most powerful and influential people on the planet, they are all members, we will say. But like we said, if you know who they are, then you should also know that the power and influence has been given to them, because someone else is always pulling the strings, and we never see the puppet masters. But in these cases, always follow the money. Now, to the Second World War. And this is where you should be starting to scratch your heads. You're like, what? The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. We know who the fascists are. We know the political Zionists. There we go. He's fascist, political Zionists, 1871. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that political Zionism, get this, be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need for the final social, cataclysm. That's why after the Second World War, there were two superpowers, Communist Russia and the United States, a primarily, once upon a time, Christian, at least on the surface, country. Get it? Balance. Okay. So yes, again, this was written in 1871. You need to be reminded of this because 70 years later, after 1871, this happened. Who are the fascists? They are the Nazis, right? Also known as the National Socialist Party. But by definition, they are the National Socialist German Workers' Party. That is their official title. And what is Zionism but the National Israeli Workers' Party? The Labor Party, the Labor Party in Israel, they had this name until they were voted out of parliament, and they rebranded within the last 20 years. They're called, first they were the Mifleget HaAvoda, HaMa'arach, then they're Kachol Veravan and Yesh Atid, and all these parties, they change the names because people here are really sick of all this garbage that they keep feeding with all this secularism and all this hate. Even those that aren't necessarily Orthodox, but aren't necessarily, are traditional, like, yeah, I'm still a Jew. What is this? That's why a very right-wing government was established in Israel, because they no longer have power. They established it at first, but no longer afterwards. That's why they have to keep rebranding, and they continue. So of course they're still in the government. They're just called something else. Like Rome became the Roman Catholic Church, became whatever you're reading today. Okay, so you understand this concept. Excuse me, my voice. So the Labor Party, like we said, it's all about labor, avodah. So essentially, Zionism is going to win over Nazism by design. But what did we say about the modern Zionist state of Israel? The Nazis could only kill our bodies. But this place, according to their plan, we're talking about the people here who are establishing the National Zionist Party and the National Socialist Party. They're establishing them for what is the outcome? To establish the modern secular Zionist state of Israel in Palestine. Okay, now we see who's controlling. Okay, so the Nazis could only kill our bodies, but this place, according to their plan, would be godless and idealistic in the ways of the world, what they have been trying to do and continue to try and do. Exactly what they have been doing. I say try because they have done a fantastic job with corrupting the souls of Israel and doing their best to snuff out God from the Jew. But they can never complete the job because God has other plans. You understand what I'm reading to you here? The purpose of the Second World War, the whole purpose of World War II, was to establish the modern secular Zionist state of Israel. Why does the world hate us? Because that's what they see. This is a spiritual thing that's going on. Nazism simply acted as a tool to push that agenda, and it worked. Got to kill as many Jews as possible, so they'll be like, no, now we get a land. Oh, because this leads to that, leads to that. And then there's the last part, which you should be particularly aware of, and that is what we are going to see leading up to the Third World War. When he said international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Social cataclysm, right? And that time that they would need it for is actually upon us now. We've been living in it. Y'all ready to see what happens next? You're going to love this. Just like we've been discussing here, the things that are currently unfolding in the world have been written in our books thousands of years ago. What I'm about to read to you is the plan. This is their plan. I'm reading this from this letter, which did not originate 150 years ago when this letter was written, but this goes back to biblical times indeed. Pay attention to the players. Who is in, who is out, who is not even mentioned. Right now, you're going to receive much clarity as to what is happening in Israel and in the world, and also to what end. So let's read section by section, and I'll break it down. I'm not going to read the whole Third World War because it's going to be too much. So line by line, and I'll break it down. World War III must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. This ruckus in the world that started World War III was not caused by Russia and Ukraine, two countries who slaughtered millions of Jews over the last 2 centuries, but by Israel and the Arabs, specifically, according to what he says, the political Zionists, the modern day Zionist state, the government, the Supreme Court, everything, the powers that be here in Israel, and the leaders of the Islamic world. That's how World War III is going to break out. Has it started? I think so. They have their agents in all our ranks, right? It's going to be caused by the agents in there who are sabotaging everything we do. And the catalyst for this was October 7th, 2023. And again, if you think that this isn't true, then I would refer you again to the Zohar. We're talking about Orthodox Jews. Please read where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai discusses the Erev Rav in Israel in great detail with their personalities and what they do, saying that all the leaders of Israel, be it Orthodox or secular, at the end of days will be Erev Rav, which means they look like Jews, they sound like Jews, they might even be Jews, but they are not Jews. Okay? Their root is of impurity, and they are the Erev Rav. They have no redemption. And their only function is to sabotage, causing rifts from within, which is exactly what is happening. So how did he know this 150 years? It's a plan, I tell you. So how are they going to achieve this chaos? He continues. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. It's so painfully obvious that the government knew about the attack on October before it happened, not hours before, years before. All this is a plan. All the evidence had come out already by global newspapers exposing the plans. That's why our media had to say, oh yeah, because there's a report that the Washington Times came out with that they had Hamas's plans and Hezbollah's plans. They had this. This was out. Exactly what was supposed to take place. We've been discussing it here. It was from our side that they ignored the cries of the Tatzpitaniot, the observers, the soldier girls who monitor their fence for months and weeks and days until the last hours. They were screaming, many of whom were either killed or kidnapped. It was their families who rallied to release the recordings because guess what? The army, the military, the government, they wanted to hide it because guilty. Where was our army? Where was our military for 8 to 12 hours? I can't say everything like I said I know here, but I can tell you this was absolutely an inside job. And once it started, we were held back from responding. They needed this to happen. It's part of their plan, like we're reading. So how do we mutually destroy each other? And it didn't only start now. It started in 1948, but this now the Third World War. This is leading up to that. So how about this? You want to tell me how a bunch of Syrian rebels on the back of pickup trucks toppled the entire Syrian government and military within weeks? But we, one of the most technologically advanced militaries on the planet, can't wipe out a couple of second-rate terror groups? No, it's a complicated... I know exactly what's going on there. Well, you think they did that by themselves and here... You have no idea. Do you know... Like I said, we could have conquered Damascus both in the 6-Day War and Yom Kippur War, but it was America that called us up and said, stop, back up. We have them. We can finish them. No, back up. Now we're going to give them money. It's insane, but this is exactly his plan coming into fruition. Why are we currently giving aid to Hamas while they're still holding our people and killing our soldiers? I don't know. Why has the Israeli government given we're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of shekels to the Palestinian Authority over the years? Why? Why are U.S. taxpayer dollars being given to them? They're doing the same thing. This is what mutually destroy each other looks like. Destroying people's spirits also, economies, everything. They start the specific conflict and they restrain us from finishing the job. This has been the status quo since the establishment of the state. You see this? Right in your face. But now I hope you have a better understanding that this is by design. Let's continue with the letter. While this is taking place, meanwhile, the other nations divided on this issue will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. Where was the world's outcry when Assad, the dude who fled, gassed over 100,000 of his own people? Mustard gas, it makes your skin peel off, cough your lungs out. Mustard gas, against the Geneva Convention mustard gas. Weapons of mass destruction mustard gas. Killed 100,000 of his own people during the Obama years. Where was the outcry there? No Jews, no news. We know. Okay. Look what happened in the world since October 2023. Nations are rising up to condemn Israel for genocide and ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Even our own former defense minister, Boogie, that idiot, as well as the rest of the snowflakes on the left. Why is this a stupid claim? For the same reason most of the country is so upset. If Israel truly wanted to commit genocide in Gaza, within 1 week, there would be no more Gaza. There's your genocide. What, we don't have the capabilities? Of course we have the capabilities. We're not doing that. In the meantime, soldiers are dying to go get out hostages that we're giving aid to their captors to. Makes perfect sense, right? You see, the division in the world right now is all about the focus on Israel. Now, the powers that be cause this rattling, a weakening of the foundations. What comes next, according to Pike? Get this. You're going to love this part. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm. Here it is. The one that they were waiting to unleash, right? Formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effects of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Look at who decided to wake up around the world when all this started. The day after it started, we're still like, wait a minute, how many were murdered? You want to tell me 1,200 people were just slaughtered, tortured, several hundred kidnapped? And now, immediately before any response of Israel, free Palestine from the river, this is what's going on. What, it was a surprise? No. This whole thing was a plan. Why were they so well organized? They're waiting for the orders. All the Ivy League schools and other college campuses, all the supporters of terror living in Western countries, harbored by, marching through the streets for the death of Jews. Most of them are not even Muslim. Most of them are godless imbeciles who are a product of a broken education system. Most of them couldn't point out Israel on the map. What did he say? We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists. Okay, no problem. Let's continue. These are the same godless Antifa groups who burned America during the Trump years without any repercussions. The sad irony is that not one of them realizes that they, the actual fascists, are calling themselves anti-fascists. This is dumb, right? People don't even know what they're chanting, what they're marching for. They're destroying their own lives. They're all puppets of the system they claim to fight against. What's the difference between, let's say, socialism and communism, okay? By definition, communism eliminates private property in hopes of creating equality. Socialism seeks greater equality by creating more equal distribution of wealth. In other words, there will always be a ruling class, and then there's everybody else. In both these things, one cuts you from the top, the other cuts you from the bottom. And they both bring out exactly the same proven results from all the false and failed countries around the world. Chaos, poverty, crime, and the destruction of the house that they live in. It doesn't work. It's a failed system. Okay? It's been proven. Period. And make no mistake, we have them in Israel as well. These ones, yes. And they are blocking roads, disrupting commerce, starting fires in the streets. What do all these fools have in common? One thing you can say, they are all on the left and all of them got problems with God. Israel states, wherever, doesn't matter. So, like the man said, we shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists. And so they have, for the purpose of provoking a formidable social cataclysm. If anyone doesn't understand what cataclysm is, here's the definition. A sudden, violent upheaval, especially in a political or social context. And he continues again with which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effects of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Pike himself is saying that atheism, godlessness, causes savagery, and the result is a bloody turmoil. In the meantime, Jews are being targeted and beaten in the streets, both in the US and in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, withheld from entering college campuses. Synagogues are being burned down, but no one sees what's coming next? Really? Hey Jews, you want to live? So far, every single thing that has been written here has taken place and is taking place, because how can a person be able to plan something like this in such great detail, know exactly what is going to happen in every corner of the world, unless they are not only controlling the governments, but the minds of the mindless masses as well? Want to see what comes next? He continues. Then, everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization. The dumb sheeple are generally ruled by the overwhelming minority. Okay, it's always like that. And in this case, the bringers of chaos themselves will cause such havoc that nobody will be able to remain neutral. And the majority will have no choice but to push back, to fight back. And once they unite, they will, as he said, exterminate those destroyers of civilization. We're unleashing the nihilists and the atheists. Okay, now why? To get a rise out of these. You now destroy them. They're gone. Bunch of you are going to go. Now from who's left, we got a new thing for you. This is how they're working, right? The majority will have no choice but to fight back, and once they unite, they will, as he said, exterminate those destroyers of civilization, because this takes place in the civilized, aka Western world. Why did the powers that be do this? If you haven't noticed, everyone is a puppet and everyone serves a purpose. They need these mindless morons to cause a ruckus, a cleansing, and whomever remains has proved that they stand against, let's say, chaos, against that, and given the extreme situation the world faces, will look for any semblance of order. Okay, they create chaos, then they create order out of the chaos which they create. You're playing in their field right now, their game with their rules. And guess what? They are both running both teams, and you're just playing on there. They start by inciting wars, meaning they actually create the bad guys. And then they betray said bad guys because they serve their purpose, and now they are the heroes, right? Thus publicly exterminating those destroyers of civilization. We, the Westerners, we are the civilized world, right? Who do you think created Al-Qaeda? This is not something that is hidden, right? This was America. Created them, trained them. Bin Laden was a very good friend of the Bush family, right? Google all of this. Rambo 3, for goodness sakes. Rambo 3, it was shot here in Israel, and he was fighting alongside the Afghan rebels, Al-Qaeda, against the Russian army. That's this. This isn't a secret. Everyone knows this, okay? Who toppled the Iraqi government? Libya, Egypt, right? From Mubarak to now the Muslim Brotherhood and whatever's going on over there. This is all America, because this is on their agenda. As is Syria, Lebanon, and Iran. Yep. So you think these rebels over here that just took over Syria, that they were working alone? Well, you don't think America could again, I say America, we're talking about the agents within inside. You don't think that they could topple the government from within? Of course, right? You think they haven't had assistants that come in and be able to do this? Do me a favor. Look this up on YouTube. General Clark on the 7 countries in the Middle East, okay? YouTube this. General Clark, a retired U.S. general. He has this conversation shortly after 9/11, right? I'll tell you roughly what he says. He says that the U.S. already had an agenda of toppling 7 Middle Eastern countries, which was only presented shortly after September 11th, 2001, which means they had this plan for a while. They just needed to give the situation a little push. How can we get all our troops in the Middle East? Let's see. I'm sure we'll figure something out. So you have your 9/11. We have our October 7th. I hope you get the idea. We continue. And I'm telling you right now, Christians will not like what comes next. But remember, I didn't say this. I'm reading to you what he said. I'll just help you interpret it. He says, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration. There's more, but wait. Remember now, this is not a prophecy. This is a plan of action, one that has been carried out exactly how he said he would. And a wise man would say, well, since everything he said would happen happened to a T, so then why would he say that the multitude will be disillusioned with Christianity, and at our point in time, no less? Why would he say that? What does he know that he's saying that? How could he make a statement like that would cause 2.4 billion Christians to question their faith? Whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction? From that moment, he says. From what moment? Deistic. What does that mean? From the word deism, meaning the belief in God. So you want to tell me that the plan is that Christians will not even believe in God? They will be, says Pike, anxious for an ideal, right? If that's the case, then anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration. Ask the Christian today, where do they render their adoration? Jesus. Okay. What's going on here? Meaning, who they thought was God is not actually God. And that is going to be proven to them beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm reading the comment, right? Going to be proven to them beyond a shadow of a doubt. How is this How can you do this? What are you talking about, Albert Pike? I know how it's possible. You see, this stuff is written in our prophecies. What's going to happen? That's God's plan, by the way, not man's plan. It's God's plan. Aside from the fact that you can pull apart Christianity with like just this thread and everything comes apart. All their plans, everyone's plan serves God's purpose. And all idolatry must be removed from the world. This we learned, this we know. So we already know that Christianity has no future. It can't by default. But the people within, that's a different story. And we will get to that. Like I said, in all my teachings, I'm not bashing Christians. It is the institution that is the false institution that is Christianity that I have a problem with. We will break this down, I promise you. Just stick with me. We're almost there, okay? So where does one render their adoration when everything they thought that they knew, everything they believed was proven to them beyond the shadow of a doubt, according to Pike, right? To be absolutely false, a complete lie. Not only a lie, but deception. Divide and conquer, remember? And the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment forward be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration. Wait for it. Will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. Ta-da! Okay. So finally, he says, why does he say finally? He says finally because it's been hidden in plain sight this entire time. And that is how easy it is going to be. If you ask any Satanist, okay, I've had a very interesting conversation with a person who actually works with people who got out of Satanism, right? Who they hate most, they will tell you they hate Christians. Not necessarily Jesus, whatever. They think that Jesus is whatever, real, fake, doesn't matter. Those guys. Satanists hate Christians the most, right? Not Jesus, but those who believe in him. And if you ask Christians, who do you hate most? You will say Satan, right? Who's the big bad? It's Satan, obviously. And if you ask a Jewish Torah scholar, who is Lucifer? They'll say, I don't know. Because nowhere in our Torah is that name mentioned. But in the Christian version of our Torah, it says it there. And that right there should tell you all that you need to know. Jews are not even in this fight. You have to understand. Go to the Red series, to the Calling All Sparks series. You'll have your answers there through the entire thing. Like I said, pull apart with the string. Christians believe that this Satan is an independent agent who rebelled against God. To believe that, right, is... They also believe that the entire battle in this world is between God and Satan, whose name is Lucifer, which would negate the belief in the sovereignty of God, that anything that God, that the Creator created, would be a problem for him. To your standard Torah-observant Jew, Christianity and Satanism are both idol worship, straight up. The thought that a man is God and Satan rebelled against God, it's lunacy to us. But to an educated Jew, Christianity and Satanism are two sides of the same coin. Divide and conquer. Again, watch the Red series. I believe it's in the Yeshu teaching. It's explained in detail. Jews know, we know this, that the ministering angel of Esav, who is Edom, who is Rome, who is the Roman Empire, past and apparently present, who rebranded as the Roman Catholic Church along the way, who gave all the Christians their Bibles that they have read over the past 1,600 years. Yes, it came out of there. Who all of the 42,000 and counting denominations of Christianity in the world today read. They are all one and the same. And the ministering angel of all of this is, in fact, Satan himself. Jews know this. We learn this stuff. We learn a lot of things nobody else can. Also, nobody else will. To us, Satan and Christianity are one and the same. These guys kiss the feet of a created being, and these guys kiss the feet of a created being. These guys look for their deity to save them, and these guys look to save for their deity to save them. These guys worship death, and these guys worship death. These guys are all about human sacrifice, and it's all about the blood. So are these guys. For years, I've been teaching how 2.4 billion Christians are going to have an existential crisis when they realize who in fact their God is. That's why some of the sages call it deviant worship. In other words, I know you want to worship God, but that's not where your prayer goes. That's not who you're giving your life to. We know this is coming. We even know how the Freemasons, Satanists, Illuminati, and what have you will pull a fast one over Christians. Micah 4:5, for all people shall go, each one in the name of his God, but we will go in the name of the Lord, our God, forever and ever. B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu L'olam Va'ed. In the end, everyone will call out to their God, and I guess we'll see who answers. But when 2.4 billion Christians, I need you to think about this, about a quarter of the population of the world find out that they were actually worshiping Satan this entire time, when something like that will be revealed to them, and they will know that it is the truth, think about the spiritual vacuum that it will cause, the kind of negative energy it will cause. Anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, says Pike. Their hearts will be broken. Their world will be shattered, and they will need something to fill that gap. Enter the true light of Lucifer, right? None of this is relevant to Jews. We got our own problems with the error of Rav embedded with us. Thank you very much. You should also ask yourself why the Jews are not mentioned anywhere in this letter. Nowhere does it say here the Jews. What does it say? Zionism, the Zionist state, the secular Zionist, the modern Zionist state, da-da-da. Nowhere does it say Jews. Zionism is not Judaism, and this is further proof of that. Even he says so. They assume that all Jews will have come to the modern Zionist state of Israel, where the Freemasons and the Illuminati agents will help us lose our religion altogether. But they, like everyone else, underestimates just how stiff-necked we are. The letter concludes with this line: this manifestation, how will this happen, will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. A reaction is not a response. And every war, every shift of power is a reaction to the reaction that came before it. These are the dominoes of deceit that have been falling for thousands of years since the days of the original Masons, the original builders, right? Those who built the tower to try and destroy God. And it's almost over. They have had this plan going back since that time. And in every generation, they have raised up their agents, molding them to their will, grooming them for their generational domino to be pushed over and trigger the next one. The destruction of Christianity. How's that going to look like? A large chunk, make no mistake, will lose their minds. They will lose their minds, and chaos and mayhem will ensue throughout the world. There's going to be crime and riots, theft, murder. We're talking about a full-on post-apocalyptic scenario because there's no God, right? And again, this is part of their plan. They need that chaos to then create their order out of that chaos. The other significant chunk will merge with the doctrine of Lucifer because it's, in essence, not different than Christianity. Love, love, love. I am the light, drink my blood, eat my flesh. It's all about me, me, me. You have no future without me. Any non-Christian that would hear what I just said, you're going to be thinking I'm talking about Satanism. But this is actually Christian doctrine. From the Christian Bible, this is what they believe. Again, go to the Red Series. Crazy, right? Yeah. Anyway, but it's the very small percentage of soon-to-be ex-Christians that I am actually interested in. Those who are still in Christianity, believe Jeebus and all that good stuff. This is the inevitable fall of Edom. We read about it. It's going to happen, right? When her cup runneth over. I'm looking at the lost 10 tribes to return primarily from there. Not to mention yet again that so long as Christianity exists, Israel can never be whole. That's why Christians and Jews, they cannot coexist. You might have a mutual respect, but it has to be completely destroyed for Judaism. And again, we are not the ones to do this. This is God's plan, and we're getting a confirmation from this man's plan. Christians are unaware that they are caught in an abusive relationship with Jesus. That's why they don't leave. Just like a battered wife whose husband tells her that without him, she has no future. How no one will love her but him, like him. All those who came out know exactly what I'm talking about. The rest of y'all that are still in there, I pray to God that you wake up before you can't anymore. Once Jesus, this man-God idol, is removed from the equation, as it says in our prophecies and also in their plans, they will in fact be free and immediately return to the fold of Israel. Talking about the lost sparks that are within there. Now, I told y'all that this would be a hard pill to swallow, but like it or not, there's no way that this is not going to happen. It's already written. So, brace. And so, to the next question. The Freemasons, the Illuminati, what have you, they're everywhere. The reason most people call this conspiracy is because, like we said, most people choose to be asleep and can only make a move when whomever they choose to call Lord or Master says so. We got these problems too. Be it rabbi, priest, congressman, border czar, I don't know, president, guru, whatever. Just like our boy Elon stated how America is the new Rome, with all its symbolism and history and its grid marks, And this time it will not fall. We have it here in Israel too. Just like the founding fathers in the U.S. were all Freemasons, so too were the founding fathers of the modern state of Israel, most of which remain in politics today. Please Google the Supreme Court of Israel, and you will see on its Supreme Court of Israel, by the way, it was openly built by Freemasons. They said this. On the roof, you're going to see the triangle, the pyramid, okay, in Jerusalem over there. It's the same one that's on the back of your $1 bill. In God we trust. Aha. What God? Who do you call God? You see. All the presidents of the United States, they are not elected. They are appointed. And make no mistake, they make it look really good. I'll give you an example. Please Google, this is fun for you. Please Google Skull and Bones Society, okay? You will notice that Skull and Bones is a secret elite society affiliated with Yale. And its former members, with their pictures right there, are Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George Bush. Yep, that's right. Both Republicans and Democrats are playing the American people for fools. Divide and conquer. And you may also be wondering why there, you'll see in those pictures, you'll see in a lot of them, the skull and the crossbones and see underneath is a 322. What is this 322? I'm glad you asked. Please go to Genesis 3:22. Behold, man has become like one of us. You see, they believe that God, the Creator, He's the bad guy who trapped man in this prison called the Garden of Eden. And who freed man from his prison? The angel of light. Okay? They call it the angel of light. It was the serpent fused with the Satan. They call him Lucifer. There's that. You go over there. And as we've learned, Satan fused with the serpent and they became one. And then they infected man and his wife with death. And so they have made a deal with death because they want to live forever. That's why God said, get out of there before he eats from the tree of life and lives forever in this fallen state. So Satan is their God, their good guy, and which is also why they worship knowledge, as in the tree of worship knowledge. Yes, one of them God speaks in Isaiah 28:15. For you said, we have made a treaty with death, and with the grave we have set a limit. When an overflowing scourge passes, it shall not come upon us. For we have made lies our shelter, and in falsehood we have hidden ourselves. Who has made lies their shelter? The powers that be. That goes for both the Satanists and the Christians who will become Satanists. They both worship death, or a dead man. Death, same thing. The cross is a symbol of death. Therefore, so has the Lord God said, behold, I have laid a foundation, a stone in Zion, a fortress stone, a costly cornerstone, a foundation well-founded, the believer shall not hasten. And I will make justice the lion, and righteousness the plummet, and hail shall sweep away the shelter of lies, and the shelter, in other words, you're protecting yourself by the lies that you're telling, gone, and water shall flood the hiding places. Keep on digging those bunkers over there. And your treaty with death shall be nullified, and your limit with the grave shall not endure. And who is death? Mavet. Satan is also Malach HaMavet. He is the angel of death. You're making treaty of death. The angel of death is the ministering angel of Esav, of Christianity, the Christian world. You understand? And your treaty with death shall be nullified, and your limit with the grave shall not endure. When an overflowing scourge passes, you shall be trampled by it. There's only one way. There is literally only one way. It ain't their way. One is echad in Hebrew. Zechariah 14:9. And the Lord shall become king over all the earth. On that day, the Lord shall be one and his name one. On what day? When you realize there is no other God but God. Ein od milvado. Christianity takes away the oneness of God because it tells them to pray to and through a different name. You say that that is divine. I say, I'll see you soon, honey, but this is not going to end well for you. This is how it's going to end, and only those who recognize this will remain. Don't worry, God is very, very fair. Everyone is going to get a chance before this happens. But don't think that you're going to wait until the end and then join the winning team. We already went through that, and it's worse than dealing with the nations. We're talking about the Erev Rav. They waited to see, the Israelites, we're going to join the Israelites. We're going to leave Egypt with them. Ve'am Rav, Erev Rav, that's them. They're still among us, not doing us a solid over here. You deal with what you got to deal out there. We're dealing with them in here. So, who is pulling the strings of the powers that be? God, obviously. Our prophecies are their plans. They are paving the way as they openly say to a new world order. I know I'm going to get a tag underneath the video. George Bush Sr. is talking about a new world order. Bill Clinton, George Bush Jr. They're all talking about these things. Why am I a conspiracy theorist when they're the ones saying these things, for goodness sakes? And it just so happens to be God's plan as well, only it's his new world order. They will not succeed. He is allowing this to get to a certain point, obviously. Let them destroy all the other idols and idolatry in the world so that they are one, right? They control both narratives. God lets them do it. If Israel does what we're supposed to do, we are not part of this fight. We are separate from this. And then, that's it. He's allowing at a certain point, let them dig their own graves. Now, who do you think is going to end up on top? That's a stupid question. We don't think like that. The other religion thinks like that. Because we do not compare God to his creation, nor does God contend with his own creation. Aha, says the Christian scholar. But it says in Genesis 6:3 that God said, I will no longer contend. And haha, I tell you that this too is a poor translation and that is not actually what it says in Hebrew. So, let's wrap this up. Shall we? The origin of the concept of Zionism is from the return to Zion to build the Second Temple. The modern day term Zionism defines itself by a sovereign state for the Jews. That's superficially. But in reality, as we have discussed, the underlying purpose is to rid the Jews of their Judaism, thereby brazenly defying God through the guise of a sovereign democratic state. How do they do this? By bringing the ways of the nations to the Jew in the land of the Jew. If you won't assimilate yourselves physically, those who remain, we mean, because we've lost millions and millions of Jews to assimilation around the world, we can just help you along a little bit here in the land of Israel. You won't even notice it, and we don't. One level beneath that, right? That's the modern secular Zionists, right? That's who everybody thinks that, well, the bad guy, we're saying the bad guys, okay? There's like the bads and the worsts. There's the return to Zion. There's the secular Zionism. Now we're going the next level, right? How Zionism is just used as a tool, just like Nazism. One level beneath that are the powers that be who are using Zionism for their endgame. The same group that invented and is using Christianity and Satanism as their endgame, for their endgame. Think of March Madness, or if you don't know what March Madness is, it's like a college basketball tournament, right? You're starting a World Cup or something. A bunch of teams going head to head until only two remain. How do they know? How do you know that you can guarantee a spot in the final? Not only that, but also to win, meaning the desired outcome. It's very easy. Control both sides of the narrative. Obviously, like I said, divide and conquer. Democrat, Republican, left, right in Israel. It doesn't matter. They're playing everyone against each other. This against this, and when they crush this, there's going to be a new one until whoever remains, that's who they want to remain. But Israel, real Israel, we need not contend with anyone because we're not even playing this stupid game. Israel is above the stars, above the nations. We read this. We're not better than. We have a different job. Just leave us alone. We are the lot of God, as said in Jeremiah 46, 27, 28. You fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and be not dismayed, O Israel. For behold, I will redeem you from afar, and your children from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return and be quiet and at ease, and there shall be none who disturb his rest. You fear not, my servant Jacob, says the Lord, for I am with you, for I will make a full end of all the nations where I have driven you, because of what they did to you there. But of you I will not make a full end. In other words, not everybody's going to come out, but a remnant, right? But I will chastise you justly for everything that you've done, and I will not completely destroy you. Some will remain, whoever's in Israel, right? Why do we see a repeat of Jacob, 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 Jacob? Because Jacob, my servant specifically, because the fakers don't get, no, I'm Israel and I am the son. The fakers don't get it. They will never get it, okay? They love calling themselves Israel, but they don't refer to themselves as Jacob. You got to earn that too. So then, why would God allow, a lot of people asking this question, why would God allow the evil Zionists and their overlords and all this nefarious agenda to take place? Why would God bring back Jews to Israel under this terrible guise? For the same reason he allowed Haman from Persia, right, to plan and try and execute a complete annihilation of the Jews, only to fail spectacularly and create the tree that he himself would swing by. We are not playing this game. We are spectators, and we are not sitting in our synagogues and planning the destruction of the world. The world is doing just fine with that on their own. Jeremiah 29, Jews, listen up. For I know the thoughts that I think about you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Everything is doing for Israel. And you shall call me and go pray to me, and I will hearken to. God's saying what is going to happen. You will call me because I'm going to leave you no choice. And you will pray to me because there's nothing else that you can do. But when you do that, I will hearken to you. And then how? You will seek me and find me. If you truly look for me, you will find me. How? For you will seek me with all your heart. Anything less than all your heart, you're not going to find God. And I will be found by you. Not I will find you. I never lost you. You're right there. I will be found by you. I will allow you to find me, says the Lord. And I will return your captivity and gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you. This is the waking up and returning here now. Like we said, wings of eagles, Elal. And from all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord, and I will return you to the place whence I exiled you, the land of Israel. If you can do it now, why are you going to make God do it later? Right? I'm sure we all had this. My dad said, clean up your room, or go give me that thing from your room. And I would come out because I didn't look for it. And he says, did you find it? I said, no, I couldn't find it. And what my dad said, if I have to come in there and if I have to find it, and if I find it, immediately I found it. If I have to come there and get you out myself, you don't want any part of that. And that verse, all these verses, these are for Jacob, not for anyone else. Our only job as Jews is to return to the land, live how God instructed us, and everything else will fall into place. That's how simple this is. To do this, no one said that the travel is going to be easy. No one said the reacclimation is going to be easy. No one said the readjustment is going to be easy. You are leaving your father's house, the place where you grew up, and so on, your surroundings, to come to the land that I will give to you. That's already been done. Why are you out? You see, this is it right now. Your fate is in your hands right now, outside the land. Because what are we going to say, God? If destruction is coming to Israel, God, you know what? I'm in Israel. I'm in Jerusalem. There's whatever comes. There's no other place in the world that I would rather be. No other place in the world at any point. And if Israel is in fear of complete annihilation, then this is where I will go. Where else would I want to be? Are you crazy? Where else? Jerusalem, Israel, and the holiest city in the Holy Land? Not going anywhere. So our only job, again, is to come to the land, live as God instructed us, and everything will fall into place. Where we fall short, and we have and will, He will help us. He always has. You see, if you read the Torah, you will notice that all the great things came out of the least likely places by design. The holiest things come from the most questionable. From an idolater came Abraham. From Egypt came the nation of Israel, the Exodus, the Torah. From Persia came a repentance of everyone. From Lot and his daughters out came King David. And from the anti-God, anti-religion, anti-Torah, worship of man, assimilation of the nation, secular modern-day Zionist state of Israel, will rise the united 12 tribes, the sons of Jacob, under Judah, the nation of Israel. This is one of those Psalms 118:23 situations. This was from the Lord. It was wondrous in our eyes. And so the klipot, the husk, will be separated from the fruit. We can only do our best, but God is the one who is going to complete it. As we will discuss, I believe, in the next Calling All Jews. Israel will be separated from the nations, whether we do it ourselves or it will be the nations that will remind us who we are, as history so records. As the prophecy says too, a nation stands alone by the words of Bilam, and the Erev Rav will be separated from Israel, and that comes through refinement. Again, we will be discussing that. We can separate Zionism from Zion, as they chose Zionism over Zion. You see, they chose Zionism and everything that stands for over Zion. Within every organization, there is this corruption, but God is going to root it all out. He already began. God is doing all this, everything that you see in the world, allowing everything, doing everything, and it is all written. Be awake, my fellow Jew. Don't miss what is going on. We have merited somehow to be alive in the greatest time in history, not because of our deeds, not because of anything that we may have done in our past lives, but because God gave his word, his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob. As the faithful shepherd Moses said to our ancestors, who stood by the raging sea with Egypt, the world, crashing down upon them, don't freak out. Don't lose your minds. Don't lose your faith and never give up hope. Believe in God and see what he has done to your adversaries. Remember the promises that he made and know that you carry his name. He is doing this. He is making this happen. And since his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts, Isaiah, do not assume that you can even begin to comprehend. Just be still and witness what the Creator has already done for you. As said, the Lord will fight for you, but you shall remain silent. And that's our class. Now, should anyone from any background, okay, or any faith, whatever, have any focused questions, please send me a brief email, okay, with your number and topic, and I will be happy to converse with you. I'll give you a buzz. But again, don't send me like this email and say, what are your thoughts on that? No. What is your question? And we can take the conversation from there, okay? I'm asking you, please respect my time, and I have no doubt that many will be upset by this teaching, but that is not the purpose. I am relaying this information. Everything I said is out there. Do with it what you will, and you are more than welcome to look these things up for yourself, okay? That being said, may God bless all of us, all right? May we merit to see the full and final redemption in great mercy speedily in our day. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you've made it to the end, kol hakavod, I really hope you did. Hope to see you all on the other side. Bye-bye.